one fight, pay-per-view, or Honor Club, or you are live in the Sears Center, I know from the bottom of my heart that each and every one of you are all in.
Hello and welcome to Spotlight, recorded live on Grapple Patreon. I'm Benno.
And I'm JP.
And I think that was a copyright-free intro there from the one and only, is it Matthew Massey and Papa Buck who did the original All In theme. I went deep, JP. I don't know how much I'll keep of that once I actually get to the editing room. I found I was trying to find the song. He seems to have deleted his entire SoundCloud doesn't exist. Like us, his Spotify page doesn't exist. His iTunes is gone. Couldn't even find him on TuneIn. Couldn't find him absolutely. Not even was scrobbling. Is that what the kids used to do? Couldn't find it anywhere there. But I found it in an old episode of BTE, and it also had that clip of Cody, which felt like perfect introductions. To the main topic today. Nobody could have said it better than young Cody Rhodes in 2018.
Oh, how young and naive he was, wasn't he? He was right, though. They did change the wrestling world, as we're going to see this weekend. I mean,
he's very polite, though, wasn't he? He was. We should have saw the signs early on, shouldn't we? That he wasn't he broke the throne, but it was kind of WWE's great butt, and everyone forgot that bit. He just jumped in on the after the butt is all people heard and started chanting all in. But he was making sure he knew where his bread might be busted again one day.
He did, and if you want to look at it from a cash flow perspective, his bread is completely buttered. If anything, there's almost arguably too much butter. I mean, say about Cody. Too much bread. Yeah, he's all right, but literally his bread is dollars, isn't it? His bread is green. I don't mean in the mouldy sense, like when you've left it in the cupboard for a bit too long as well. I've started listening to his podcast. What do you want to talk about now? Cody's got...
That's got to be Stephanie McMahon type podcast where he says nothing, but it takes up a lot of airtime. No, he says things. No. Jesus. Well, I say that as a seasoned saying nothing but taking up a lot of airtime podcast. But,
do you know what it is? It's basically like an old High Spots podcast, like the one that because he had Kevin Owens on it, and they're talking about the indies and they're talking about all the other dates and stuff that he did. They're
Kevin Steen show type stuff.
Yeah, Kevin Steen. So it's just very affable. It's him and his mates, and it's him and Damian Priest like the week before as well, with a few kind of backstage stories, and it's gently entertaining. I've heard a lot worse. I refuse to listen to Stephanie's Places unless that place that she's in is a prison. I've got no interest in anything that she has to say because it will just be corporate doublespeak bullshit.
I think. But on the quiet, I think you were a fan of those High Spots type podcasts. Officer and a Gentleman was one. Best Friends is it called with Chuck and Trent.
Basically the same podcast.
That's what I'm remembering. Yeah, a full folder full of them all. Obviously all legally obtained, just like the music for tonight. Obviously legally obtained. But yeah, and you were a fan back there. Maybe it could be some background. That was the thing, wasn't it? Podcasts when wrestlers started doing podcasts, and obviously Colt Cabana deserves all the credit in the world for being not the first. I'm sure there were other ones, but obviously popularised it and basically did Marin but for wrestling, didn't he? And he says that himself. That's what he did. And then obviously the big name people jumped in and saw there was money. But it was early on, it was genuinely but we don't need shoot interviews anymore. We're literally just having these people on telling their indie road stories. Then you got Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it was just cool to have that voice coming at you in your headphones, but talking about he'd be reviewing the early AEW paper. Speaking of All In, I'm sure he reviewed All In. I'm sure sure the original one. I'm sure he reviewed all of the early AEW pay-per-views, definitely them, if not that. And it was just like, wow, this is amazing. I'm sat in a room with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then eventually, I don't know whether the money runs out. I think we talked about it the weekend. Podcast One stopped paying those checks. Red One, I think, took over. And then all of a sudden they all disappeared again. Like the wrestler podcast boom feel like it's ended now. Or maybe it was just one of them. It's like the regular podcast boom. There just ends up being too many podcasts, and you end up with people like Jake the Snake having theirs. I enjoyed this quotable this week. I was going to have it as one of our finally stories, but he said something along the lines of like, the WWE Netflix documentary. They're just like they're blowing. There's no point in having kayfabe anymore. Like when they're doing that, when they're putting that documentary out, it's the end, and it's like I agree with you in principle, Jake. Because that show does look like a terrible idea, WWE Unreal. It looks like, Triple H is going to make himself look bad, or The Rock's going to make himself look bad, and we're all going to get to rubberneck it. But you probably need to understand, Jake, that you're saying this on your podcast where you also, this is the Jim Cornette argument, is going back years, like, who broke kayfabe more than James E. Cornette in his many, many, many shoot interviews over the years, It's just if the money's right.
You cannot claim you're protecting kayfabe while simultaneously going, this is how I would book this territory in 1993. You go, okay, what's a booker exactly? You lads not fighting for real then? No, you're just wearing underpants and shaving your chest for shits and giggles. Like what is this? Like, it's an absolute nonsense. Like Dutch Mantel having his own podcast as well. And it's all so clickbaity and kind of boring. Really, at this stage,
it's like the Conrad ones. I think it was the pre-show we were talking about it. It's like for me, like I honestly for Benno and Hamflet, I'll throw on. I used to at least at the start. I'll throw on Bruce Pritchard. I'll just see, what's like his take on everything that we're about to talk about. Is there any little nuggets? I don't think he even watches the shows. I'm pretty sure he's just telling you, he's doing that old podcast trick of giving you a couple of facts about the wrestlers, agreeing with Conrad and going, yeah, it probably was a good match. Anyway, yeah, in 1996, what I was doing was, and it's like, I think he's those 3 hour or 2 hour even in your house shows were probably too long for Bruce. He's got too many other things to do, and he's just completely milking it, which is what Conrad did to Steve's point here in the chat. Just seeing how many marks hold on.
I think the only one of any interest, and this isn't a surprise, weirdly seems to be the Jeff Jarrett one, which I have to admit I'm not a regular listener to.
I see the odd clip from it. Yeah, the clips are funny.
He seems to say more interesting kind of nuggets of information just because he's willing to talk kind of like business and like arranging stuff, and I love that shit. It's like manna from heaven. As opposed, he's not like shitting on people from a great height, but at the same time, he's got and he's been everywhere. So he's Forrest Bump. He's got all of these stories to dish out all of the time. So that kind of stuff works. Whereas, I don't know, Bruce Pritchard, where's he been? He's been 2 places. He's been in WWE/F. And
he's been up Vince McMahon's ass. Are they the same?
Oh yeah.
Oh, TNA too. I suppose.
He never moved out of there. Even when he was in
still
TNA.
there now.
Yeah, doing his sleeper agent kind of bullshit, wasn't he? Yeah, he's not missed, I imagine, by TNA. They seem to cope without him.
But yeah, we need to bring it back. It's due like a revive, or maybe it needs a new a paint the old wrestler podcast. Or maybe it is. It's just one of. I think I always say it's like the difference is like as much as I enjoyed Steve Austin in the early days, he'd be quite like all guns blazing about like the AEW shows. He'd tell you what he liked, he'd tell you what he didn't like, and then eventually stopped doing that so much. And then eventually, the wrestler back channels happen, don't they? And they're all scared of saying anything bad about each other. So you end up just getting kind of just the most neutral possible opinions, and that's why not to pat ourselves on the back, but fan podcasts and stuff like that exist because I think we can all be honest and we can all tell you when something's shite with no real reason not to tell you why it's shite. I think that ends up happening. Unbelievably, the people who've taken less bumps end up being able to give you I think a more authentic take a lot of the time. I think it just ends up being true.
I'm loving what Simon says there about him opening the first Netflix or typing away like Jessica Fletcher pissed on the grave of kayfabe.
He wants to make sure, doesn't he? Like somebody said that this week. That's the Kliq's way. They've always been like that. They really want to show you how the sausage is made. Like never listen to them if they ever say anything about kayfabe being broken. They're originators. They are very much, WWF in the mid-90s. Speaking about it on Hamlet, it's pretty much the Kliq just taking a piss on every Raw and going, look, we're the good ones, and they want to work with each other because they know and to be fair, they're mostly right. They know they're the good ones, and they want to make it very clear that they're the ones with the, they're not the hip Vince McMahon and the shitty mid-90s stuff. They're looking to the future. Kevin Nash saw Crash TV before it was cool. They saw the baddies being the goodies long before Stone Cold Steve Austin. They always make sure you know all that stuff. Like they're very quick to do that, or quick to do that.
I just never like all these people who are anti-kayfabe stuff. If they don't say anything about this WWE Unreal, then it is the worst faith arguments you could possibly imagine for that type of stuff. And the Kliq, it's the irony, isn't it? It's just like these are the guys who were like accused of breaking kayfabe and everything else that night in MSG. They're the ones who are running the industry, or running certainly a big section of it, and no one ever criticises them because it's WWE. That's a brilliant pun. That Kliqbate, that is
could be the title. If not All In Texas preview, we'll be getting to that. Don't worry, folks. But yeah, good work.
It's less humorous All In Texas preview, but it does what it says on the tin. Like there was a bloke who signed for a club called Ron Seal. And I saw Mike Kilby had written out, and he does what he says on the tin. That's his name. Ron as in RAWN and Seal as in SEALE. And it's just like, well, I mean, it writes itself, isn't it? But Mike got there
first.
His
parents knew what they were doing. They were ready.
They did.
They were ready for him when he grew up. Sorry, I apologize for the strange ranks on wrestling podcasts and wrestling people. I was around wrestling people for the first time this weekend, JP, in months, and they were very nice wrestling people actually in the opposite sense. Everyone was very chatty. It felt weird. It felt like being back in society, or our weird offshoot of society. If anyone didn't see my Instagram over the weekend, I mentioned it again on the pre-show, but didn't really go into detail. There happened to be a fucking wrestling. The picture behind JP is the wrestling show I was at this weekend.
Your old horn, literally.
Honestly, I had no idea that there was anything going on in Da Nang. And I'd seen last year that they had a wrestling festival thing going on. It was it's to do with, I'll go into the detail of it maybe later, but it was to do with they have a Japan cultural exchange thing going on, where it's basically a Japan festival that was going on in the center of Da Nang. Should have just guessed that there was going to be wrestling involved, because of course there was going to be wrestling involved. That kind of goes without saying, but it was weird just kind of being stood there and just there's wrestling music being played on the speakers, and just like I say, talking to people in wrestling terms, and just being around being around wrestling fans, but Vietnamese wrestling fans, a couple of very nice lads I chatted to, who also made me feel very old when I found out they got into wrestling 3 years ago, because obviously it's a young sport, wrestling in such places as Vietnam. Or maybe I felt a bit older, and I think I found one of them was born in 2009, which is after even I wrestled to link it back to bumping, which is a terrifying fact, JP. But as the father of many boys, you know that's there are grown adults walking the world who were born after the mid 2000s. But yeah, it really was. It was like being born again and being awoke again. I was amongst that people, JP. It was kind of nice.
In fairness, with that weather, you'd have really struggled to not be awake during it. 'Cause if you could sleep while sat in the middle of that, then fuck me. When you said it rains out there, you were not underselling it. If anything, you were massively underselling it, because Jesus Christ, that's rain.
Yeah, that picture behind just sums up exactly what it was like. It was just insane. I'll try and throw some of the videos up, but it was an actual. I was saying this to the promoter though. I think if it had gone perfectly, if it hadn't rained, then would would the world have paid attention with the little videos that went up, went viral? Would people have? Apparently, I was saying it on the pre-show on Sunday. Apparently, there were different people in his mentions, and different people in I think have private conversations with him, where you get the one half where it's that's the fucking coolest thing ever that a wrestling show took place during a legitimate thunderstorm, and then there was other people, obviously health and safety inspired, probably more than anything, going that's probably not a good idea. It's probably not the smartest thing to do But again, once a thunderstorm hits, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I think it was one of those things. It was like they were both afternoon shows. There was only supposed to be, I think it's 5 matches in total across the 2 days. So like that's, it's one of those things where like I think they were hoping they get in and out of the with the rain forecast, but like once it started raining, there were 2 matches left. So you've booked it, you've got to follow through with it, and you got to put a show on. But it was just honestly, it was one of the craziest experience I've ever had in my life. Like there's literally there's apparently the YouTube channel of Vietnam Pro Wrestling, which is what I saw. I've got a bit of footage up from day 2, which wasn't as bad, but I believe I might put an appearance in a couple of bits of that footage set in the crowd. But like there's some like videos from like the other direction from when I was like in the crowd, like filming stuff, and I was trying to be like, literally it was me little brolly that I had like hidden in my man bag that I bought in Thailand from getting caught in one too many of these storms over the few weeks I've been out in, or the few months I've been out in this part of the world. I'm like just trying to get as much guerrilla footage as I possibly could, like knowing that my phone's probably going to survive. It's my old Redmi Note phone. It's one of them. I can always replace it, but like, yeah, you can literally see me ducking for cover, trying to hide. But it was one of those things where like there weren't even that many people there anyway, but the people who were there were all just like taking cover and hiding up or wherever they could, hiding under like the little like there's literally where this video is playing, these little side stalls to the side, like trying to stay there. And like I honestly think the wrestlers were really smart about it, because they ended up just being like, as you can see in the video there, it is not the safest place to be doing dives or be taking too many bumps. So they just moved into the crowd. They started brawling in the crowd and going through the little bits that were kind of undercover, shocking a few of the local Vietnamese patrons and shop staff that were there, who probably had no idea what was going on here. And in the end, I ended up like, it was literally like a full Choco Pro show, or a full like one of those wacky DDT shows you see from Japan, like just with people losing their minds, like people getting thrown into, as you can see there, into ball pits and stuff like that. Meanwhile, stupid me stood there with me with me brolly out in me black t-shirt, stuck to me, trying to get as much footage as I can for Twitter. But it did do some numbers, so hopefully it got the word out that there is in fact wrestling in Vietnam in Da Nang. They mainly run, obviously this being Vietnam Pro Wrestling, they mainly run in Ho Chi Minh City, or people usually call it Saigon, up there. But I think maybe they might be having a few of those conversations we often have with ourselves, JP, where every time you go in a room you think could get a ring in there. Maybe that might be better going forward than they're trying to run here. But like, I don't know if the video does justice, but like, even in the rain, it's probably the best place I've ever seen wrestling, with all respect to your hall and the electric ballroom. Like these fucking palm trees in the background and like these lit up neon buildings that are got darker, while this like action movie like scene was taking place in front of me. It was absolutely unbelievable to get to see and to witness. I've got to say a shout out to Phil Jones, one of our listeners, who was the one who gave me the heads up about the show even existed in the first place. But man, honestly, Phil, it was genuinely unbelievable. It was such a good experience.
It looked absolutely incredible. I mean, the only other time I can remember wrestling in the rain to this kind of degree was the Okada versus Minoru Suzuki match, where again,
that's what it was like.
They couldn't do too much. It was just like a brawl in the rain, which actually those guys are good enough to get around it. I thought what these guys did, and is it Bayan Aki who?
Yes, yeah.
He's
the one who took most advantage of it. Like during the intermission, he was like, "It's only a bit of drizzle. Come on, let's wrestle." He's the one who's seen most up for it for getting back in there. He's in most of the clips that I've got there. He definitely stood out. But yeah, he's like on it. I love the forethought. I love the the show must go on attitude they went with. It's Vietnam. I was saying this to like one of the lads there. It's like, because I got chatting to the promoter a little bit, who goes by Xavier Patrick, which is shortened to the Expat. That's his whole gimmick, is like the ring announcer. I kind of laughed at that. There was like a brewery there, Heart of Darkness. The bloke who ran that was an English guy who I was chatting to as well. And it's like, at the end of the day, like in this, as you've heard from my stories of being in Vietnam and Thailand, it's not really a health and safety conscious country. You're still probably at more danger crossing a road than you are like slipping and falling in a pro wrestler match that happens to be taking place in front of you. It's not gonna happen there. That's the video there. That's you can unfortunately see me in the background.
Oh, there you are.
Filming along there. It's full on that meme, isn't it? The whole how did I wind up? Record scratch, the freeze frame. Yeah, that's me. That is in fact me. In the video that seemed to do the rounds around Twitter and doing the stuff. There I am as well. It's a sturdy umbrella, JP. It's impressive that it fits in me in my man bag. It's more of a drug dealer bag than a man bag I've got, but it worked out well for the occasion. Got to get the footage when you can.
Mate, it's like a fucking Mary Poppins bag if you're fitting a brolly that size, a good size, but you've just like whacked it out of that. It's just like, it's massively impressive. Some James Bond shit going on there. Because that was my fear. I was like, has he done all this with just his cap on? Like, because if so, like, it's there's a fair chance of hypothermia. Not that seems to bother anyone else who's in any of these clips.
Didn't bother wrestlers.
They're like, they couldn't care in the slightest. And like I say, they've made more of a name. I mean, I'm aware of Choco Pro, and I'm aware of Bayanaki in particular, because he's done English language commentary on like DDT shows. I want to say Dragon Gate shows.
Somebody say he was linked to Chris Brooks. I think I'd heard that before. I think that's where I've heard his name. It was him and Tamaki Hatano, which was the match that seemed to go a bit mad with the rain and stuff. To be honest, like, Hatano was fantastic. Like, he had the look. He had that kind. He had like the perfect like pleather gear and kick pads and stuff, and he just had kind of that like that Takeshita kind of stride behind him with like the dyed hair, and he looked like Takeshita when he was younger, to be honest, like the look wise, and he, like, you could tell he had it put together. But yeah, I would honestly say that I thought Bayanaki looked really good. There was a couple of guys who were impressive on it. Again, it's like, Vietnam doesn't have much wrestling, and it was one of those things. It was like a combination show with Setup. Shivram, who's one of their guys, was
the old Thai
notably high up. I don't believe he's Thai, but he's I think he's involved in the office over on that side, but he's on a lot of their shows. So he was representing Setup. Heat Up was the Japanese company, which I've not heard the best things about, that were connected to. But again, it's the connection with the Japanese show, and they brought some talent over. Some of which were names that like a Crystal and A would know a little bit better than maybe necessarily I would. But there was a couple of relatively big names there. We've definitely read Jeff Mann and Kevin Mann out when we've been previewing shows before. Tamura Jean obviously is the big name out of Heat Up. He feels like somebody that we've definitely mentioned before. There was also there was a 12-year-old lad who was on the shows as well, who I believe is a trainee. He was genuinely better in ring than I was ever at any point in my career. His name is Suku Ren, I believe. They were just calling him Ren on the big screen, so I'll go with Ren. Tiny little lad, but he could do a fucking hell of a swanton bomb. Again, should the 12-year-old be doing a swanton bomb on a show on a ring that looked like a converted boxing ring or kickboxing ring? I don't know, but it kind of it added to the experience. It was all part of the wackiness of the day. Like, it was genuinely like interesting. I know we always say this. It's like it's not a science experiment, but like you see, like, I'm there, and obviously I'm weathered from seeing live wrestling shows, and literally so from watching this one, and there are fans there of Vietnam Pro Wrestling who are there and supporting their guys and cheering their different guys, but the most of the crowd was just families and stuff who were wandering past, so it was dead interesting to see. Like, they didn't really respond to that swanton bomb, but you know what they did respond to? Like, the odd Irish whip, or like a snapmare. That was a big one. Or when there was is it May Segura, the
old school
is she from Choco Pro? Like she was doing like she did like a snapmare, grabbing the hair. That got the loudest reaction I think of anything I saw on the show. It was almost like that old Mick Foley book type of thing, where it's like the smaller things like that, and maybe what people get, as well as being wowed by like some of the big stuff as well. And just really, it's one of those things, isn't it? You walk past a wrestling show in the rain, like on like a beach setting, which it literally was, like set off from the beach, and people are reacting to it. You're gonna join in, aren't you? And you're gonna at least stop for a few minutes and be bemused by it, even if you're not following wrestling.
Which, if nothing else, you'd hope there'd be a few people going, well, the next time this is on, we'll just wander up. Like, you can see that being the case. It's like, all credit to them, because they have made the best out of what would be a situation that would destroy any show here. How I feel about Year 7 wrestling is a different kettle of fish. I mean, like, that seems to be incredibly... let alone Year 7's doing swantons. Because then we're a hop, skip, and a jump from year 7, year 8s having like light tube matches and stuff like that, which would probably be not the greatest thing there as well. But I love how they're reacting to those smallest, because it's like when you go to those like Welsh wrestling or the camp show that I went to in Devon, and you're seeing people react to like the straight, like to stuff that you or I would just like, we'd glaze over it. We'd just be like, oh, whatever. Yeah. It's just a standard move. But in those conditions as well, I would love to have been there, because not only does it feel like it'd be humid enough as well, also look like you could stop for a bite to eat pretty much anywhere along there and just
10k banh mi off the beach. My favourite banh mi place that costs like 30p for a butty. Right there, I could pop over and get one and have a little coffee. They don't mess around the Vietnamese. It's like you might get the odd little bit of tourist money added on if you go to like some of the stalls, but mostly you're still getting a decent price for your cans of Coke and your beers. And like I say, I had a very nice fruity pilsner from the Heart of Darkness guys. It was about £2. It might be the most expensive drink I've had while I've been out here. £2 for a full on like craft beer, like nice pilsner. I'm definitely not going to complain about that. It was good stuff. I'm gonna keep an eye out for them. But like I say, the biggest thing for me was like seeing like a May Segura, who's like someone who's done AEW Dark and stuff like that, hasn't she? I don't know if she's been on Dynamite or Collision proper, but you could see like a definitive sea change when she was in there. Like she, again, levels and levels above what the standard there is. She was fantastic. It's got to be said. Rocky was probably his name was probably the better of the Vietnamese talent that I saw there. I think he's office with Vietnam Pro Wrestling. I don't want to speak out of turn, but he was good. And yeah, you could just see there was just potential there, and it was like fun to see like these hardcore Vietnamese fans who were either in Da Nang or had travelled down from Saigon to see the show. Like, I will hopefully get to one of their shows in Saigon. I will definitely go to a setup show. Like I say, they were very involved here on the Thailand side as well. That's the company that had Zack Sabre Jr. A few weeks ago that I missed because I had COVID that day. But hopefully I'll be back and I'll get to see them. But it's just, yeah, it's crazy. Like, of course, JP, I'm only away 3 months, and of course I end up stumbling on the one wrestling show that happens in Da Nang all year, and it ends up being as fucking notable as it was. Like I say, my clothes are still drying, my shoes haven't quite recovered yet. I think they might need a wash, if I'm honest. They smell a bit like rain, but it was all worth it, mate. It was all part of the sacrifice. It made it even better.
Absolutely worth it. When you were sending it across, it was like, this is fucking incredible. Like, this is just absolutely fucking unbelievable stuff. And the visuals looked great. And it'd be more remembered than if it had been a generally nice day or even just a bit overcast as well. It's that rain. And it's how they adapted to it. Like, you just say, well, fair play. They've gone in and they've improvised, which says a lot about them as workers as well at the same time. And I'm looking at May Saraga's like cage match. I mean, the AEW stuff I've seen on here outside of the Eliminator tournament stuff, which I don't know if you remember, they did that during COVID in one of the dojos. There was like it's AEW Dark. She's done some CMLL. She's done some Tokyo Joshi Pro, Glee, Deadlock Pro. She's done as well as some GCW, Stardom, Eve. She's been over, so she gets about.
She's a proper worker too. Like, even when she wasn't in the matches and she was like on the ring apron or like on the outside, she was the one getting the crowd going. She was the one knowing like, okay, this is a festival crowd. We don't need to kill ourselves apart from when it rains. But is all the natural things that are going to got over. I could call and response and stuff like that. Working that side of it. Chat's going mad here saying I'm going to be doing a Choco Pro review on as a King of the Mountain show. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe that's how they get me in real life. It's like when I say I went to a Tuesday night Graps once, and I definitely enjoyed it more than I would have wanted to admit outside of being there live. But it's part of it, isn't it? Yeah, Ewan saying she's tiny, she is, but a lot of star power coming out of it on there as well. So.
We should fuck off this AEW and WWE stuff and just go full-blown Choco Pro.
I might just do a tour now of Asia, watching like different wrestling promotions and just seeing what different weather I can see it in. If I can see it in the thunderstorm, maybe some wrestling and some snow could be next. Maybe that could
jungle
make
wrestling.
I wonder. Maybe, yeah, that's what people think of when they think of Vietnam, not these lovely beaches, which again, honestly, picturesque where it was taking place. But that's very much Vietnam can give you both. It can give you the nicest days of your life at 40 degrees like I had today, and you can have fucking horrible thunderstorms like we had there. But yeah, hell of a place to travel to see wrestling. Obviously, people will know Vietnam Pro Wrestling from like that Jericho appearance when he was over here doing something and he appeared. I know that they got some headlines there. I know that they've got a documentary coming out that I think covers that and covers covers them a little bit. So yeah, maybe we'll chat to them at some point. Maybe it's something I can follow as a story while I'm out here and kind of monitor and see how it goes. I'm not sure the lads on the weekend show, on the Sunday show, were trying to get me into going to their wrestling school and taking some bumps again. I don't know. Could be a good quick fit idea though, couldn't it? Could balance out all that bread I'm eating. So maybe.
I think do it, mate. I think if you're doing it in the rain as well and you're willing to get just a bit hardcore, well, I say by hardcore being thrown into a paddling pool full of balls, like that seems like I think you could take that bump. I don't think you have to take many Canadian destroyers or anything like that, or a fucking doomsday device, are you? Particularly if it's pissing it down. You just the odd snapmare. I think the old the body would remember, wouldn't it? Just go, yeah, I remember this. This is bringing back to my GPW glory days. Of it.
There you go. We did the show once at a festival in Macclesfield. It rained a little bit. I did a suicide dive. I'm almost as good as these lads. I'm definitely not. They were. I don't think most wrestlers would have the bollocks to do a match like this. But it was fun seeing the different wrestlers in me mentions or me replies who did enjoy it, and the ones who probably were grumbling at the phone screen as to the state of the professionalism here. But again, in Vietnam, do what you do. And
Chris Brooks just going, oh, for fuck's sakes, him. He's out there.
Grow up, lads. But yeah, shout out to everybody who was there. Obviously, everybody I met that was there. And like I say, the level of talent was definitely higher than, you would think for a young wrestling promotion and a young wrestling city, with a lot of help, like say, from the Japanese talent and the talent over from Thailand as well. But yeah, fucking great time. Didn't plan on talking about that there. I was just going to tell you about the rain, but there we go. There's your full review, pretty much. Maybe we'll talk about it a bit more at the end. But Vietnam Pro Wrestling. Get yourself to a show, get yourself a Bon Me, and you'll have a cracking time and drink yourself a Heart of Darkness beer. But yeah, and unless you got more on that, JP, and that picture behind you is fucking a cork. I should have rushed on and got myself in the background there. I was too busy trying to getting a grab home was the biggest problem. Like honestly, like the streets were, I've never seen anything like it. It was like a river pretty much every street on the way home on the Saturday night. But made it back. It wasn't too bad. And you could say the Sunday show was a little bit more civilized and a little bit more chilled out. But it was still a great time with Hatano winning there. They had it was the Summit in Da Nang. It was called, if anyone's looking for it, Asia Pro Wrestling Summit in Da Nang. And yeah, the YouTube I believe has that second day on video, so you can check out the more chilled environment on that second day if you enjoy me talk about it there. But like I say, worth it for the content, JP. But we should talk some more about what we've got going on. I usually do the plugs here, but I went long on that, so I don't know. Patreon.com /grapple. The feeds I think are working again. You'll find us. Just look for the word grapple if you find us for the first time. We're everywhere. Now again, you can you subscribe to us wherever, and we will be doing a lot of coverage this week, as we do have All In week to get into JP. So yeah, there'll be plenty over on the Patreon and for YouTube members. We're not sure what yet, but as far as content going on this week.
Oh, there's absolutely loads going on this week. I'll do it very, very quickly, I promise you. You guys, you did the story of the European title on Sunday as well as the pre-show, with a lot of milk law that was coming into the mix there as well. We also had the announcement of Conor O'Loughlin, the mighty king of the Discord. He did his King of the Mountain pick, and he chose Super J Cup 1994, which I'm really looking forward to that. So that's going to be coming up this month as well. 5-1 of greatest rivalries that is going to be in place, as well as yourself, Matty, and good old Mickey Hamflet of Benno and Hamflet's in your house. Good housekeeping. Bash at the Beach 1996. So nothing happened at that. So yeah, that'll be a good fun show to listen to you guys reviewing that one as well. So where do you get all that goodness? Patreon.com/grapple or YouTube.com/@grapple.
And just to confirm there, for the 5-1, Paul gave us the best suggestion on the Discord. We were talking about it. Actually, I think we talked about it off air now that I think about it after the show. But we are doing greatest rivalries in wrestling history. I don't know whether I'm trying to avoid, because I'm sure we might have done a similar show on stories or at some point. Apparently, we haven't, and we've done angles, but we've never done full blown rivalries. Okay. So we're trying to come up with some rules for it. I think it'll be less individual stories and more just rivalries across time. I think I'm sure Matty will break all of those rules when it does in fact come to it. But I like that idea. I think it's a really good idea for the show, and I think it's going to be a goer. How high or low we have Sean or Brett might determine on how much we consider the off screen. I'm thinking it should be mostly on screen, but maybe you can have a little nod to the off screen there when we come up with our 5-to-1 best rivalries. But greatest rivalries, favorite rivalries, we'll figure out all the terminology later. But I think that could be a goal for the show.
Or favourite greatest rivalries, if we just want to combine the whole bloody kit and caboodle there as well. Have some thoughts on that in terms of the Sean Brett thing. It's almost like you should judge it on the in-ring stuff and on the stuff that happened in front of a TV camera, but then also whilst lamenting that all the stuff backstage that you wish was on a TV camera and not Sean off camera going, swear to fucking God, I don't know anything about that, Brett. Like, yeah, all right, there you go, Sean, talking shit again. Like all that stuff kind of feeding into it, but it'll be an interesting one when we get the rules and whatnot lined up, and I have a couple of thoughts on what ones I would go with in there as well. So yeah, really interesting. Cracking lineup again this month.
There we go. That's all coming up. But like I say, this week's going to be dominated by our All In coverage, and yeah, it's only the only place we can start when it comes to everything going on in this week, JP. Because do we have to ask the question: is this the biggest wrestling week of the year? Are we going to be annoying certain people, including one of our co-hosts, if we say that? Is this the? I don't know. I feel like WWE even in trying to sabotage this weekend coming up, I've maybe made it feel bigger. It feels like a reverse WrestleMania weekend, where like on a WrestleMania weekend you have the big show, of course, WrestleMania itself, and then you have all the other companies coming out and the different hotels being booked for conventions and things like that. And it ends up being, everyone's following WWE around, depending on if they stick to the place that they've announced at a certain point. That's not quite happening with AEW, because really the only shows we've got to talk about and we'll do the full lineup match by match prediction wise on the weekend show this week, which I believe is Thursday, when we do that. But obviously, talking it more broad strokes, they're the AEW and ROH are the two shows happening in Texas as far as the notable ones. But WWE have added to it now. Saturday's main event. That's I guess it's a show that's happening. It's on later, so people can keep watching after All In. NXT, obviously, Great American Bash. We can talk about, which is very clearly been, as MJF said in his interview this week. There's very clearly been not a coincidence why that has taken place exactly as All In has taken place when they moved the All In time to the afternoon. So there's obviously that going on, as well as Evolution on the Sunday, which is probably the biggest victim of WWE's overplaying of their hand, you could probably say, or own goal that they've scored this week. But you add all that together, and it's feels like WrestleMania week, JP. Never mind the fact that I think AEW, is this a controversial take, have done the best job I think they have maybe for any pay-per-view ever of building this show up, or at least making it feel big. Maybe we'll make that determination after this week's Dynamite, whether that's truly the case or not. But put it all together, and it feels like a fucking gigantic weekend, this one coming up. And obviously there's AAA on Friday too, JP, so it's happening all over the world. It's a proper it's a destination weekend, if that destination is sat in front of your telly for countless hours, as us and the other podcasters I'm sure will be complaining about come Monday morning.
Insane stuff. Yeah, I'm glad that you included AAA Verano de Escandalo 2025 that's in there, that's got a tag match featuring both Mr. Iguana and Santino Marella. So we can't sleep on that. And clearly that's been just put in place to try and capitalise, try and take away viewers from the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, clearly.
Of course.
Yeah, all 5 of them. But yeah, it's funny you mention about it, about being the biggest week, because the thing about the Mania week was, particularly this year, because there wasn't a Ring of Honor show. There was the WrestleMania and the WWE stuff, and then there was a massive kind of drop off to basically some GCW, some of the very small scale indies. There was very little that was kind of in between. I know the TNA show did a good crowd, but it wasn't a notable show. So in many ways, if you're going on kind of show quality, you've got obviously the All In that we'll speak about being the biggest show of the weekend, but there's notable shows kind of all over the place that's there as well. So I was thinking the thing with Mania is there was so little else. There wasn't that super Card of Honor show that you normally would expect that would be really big and probably do Ring of Honor's biggest crowd of the year traditionally. And no, it obviously did up to like 6,000 at one that was the Hardys versus the Bucks and stuff like that. But it's also made bigger because this attempt to sabotage All In by them has just blown up in their face.
Yeah.
Which is fucking music to my ear. Honestly, just hook that shit to my veins.
Did you see Suit Williams' tweet? I don't always agree with Suit, but it was funny. When he put the numbers, I think so All In's done what, 20, got the numbers here, 20,799. I'll cover it as a news story in a minute. But yeah, if you add the numbers together of Saturday night's main event, which is just over 10,000, WWE Evolution, which is just over 5,000, and NXT Great American Bash, which is 593. We'll get into the reasons for that in a minute. That is in fact less. If you can do the maths, and even that's not even counting ROH, which I didn't know until we're getting the notes together this week. There, you can only go to ROH step for Dishonor if you are I think it's like a VIP for the All In. If you've paid, I think it's more than $1,000 for the proper floor seats at the front. I don't know the exact terminology on it, but literally, I was looking. I was like, there must be a way. You must be able to still buy ROH tickets. No, you can't. I mean, obviously, part of it's going on in the Arlington esports venue that Collision ran at the residency for 6 weeks before. But yeah, you can't actually buy yourself a ticket for that one. But again, I guess if we've got more than 20,000 people in town, then there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to go, so the VIP tickets is probably smart, to be fair, if anything. But you can add the few hundred of them, whatever they can fill that thing with as well.
Probably over 1,000. You can configure that.
Was it that many? I can't remember it being that many when they did the collisions.
It was like around. So it depends on the configuration, and they did it a couple of times where sometimes I think the top end was around 1,400, and then they would scale it back to like 1,000 on a couple of these as well. But it did. They have a good agreement with the city of Arlington, so it always worked out quite well for them to be doing that. It's an unusual business model for it, but then it's actually a good arena. I always thought it made Collision kind of needed it. It gave it a little bit of a kind of a grounding. The crowds were always pretty decent as well, and they were well served by stuff. And it was I don't mind residencies, and they're doing a few more of these. They're doing one in Chicago and obviously the ECW arena as well. So yeah, all good. But
it does make ROH feel like weird. A bit of a secret. I mean, it'll still have more people there than NXT. And again, I'm not really ribbing NXT when it comes to the numbers because it's kind of cool. Because they're in Atlanta, they're running center stage, so you're not going to get more than 500 people in there. It's just funny to play with the numbers and do what our suit did and wind up a certain fan base on Twitter this week. But I almost would worry with ROH. So it's it'll look good. So I suppose that's good. But then it's also even more of a secret because it's almost like you've got to pay the troll toll and find your way into the venue to get in, and then if you can't get in, how do I watch it? You've got to have Honor Club, and again, it might drive more people towards getting Honor Club, but it's only going to drive so many people. It's like the secret underground fight club now is ROH. Nobody's in the building, barely anybody's going to be able to watch the stream, and does it really exist? That's probably the real question.
I was thinking about this. I was like, why don't you just put this show up on YouTube? Just do what Worlds Collide did and use it as effectively like a kind of an infomercial for All In Texas. Here's this show. It's for free. It features all of these other kind of people around, but it's got plenty of All In plugs along the way. That would have almost been a better use of it than trying to whatever money you could make from Honor Club subscribers you can get from it, which is gonna be minimal at this stage as well. And it's not yes, there'll be some decent matches on there, but there is nothing that's particularly outstanding outside, really, I think, of the main event of the Bandido Takeshita, which will be a good wrestling match, but it's not really built it up on drawing match. Yeah, they have.
Maybe, but I mean, for ROH, though, for what it is, I think that is a draw. If we're talking the low numbers, we're talking with ROH. Because that's the type of match, the argument would be that should be on All In. That should be, both of those wrestlers should be higher up in the card, that they should be on an All In, and they should be doing something a little bit more substantial. So at least it's got that going for it. It's just, like I say, it's the weird, you'd think if that's the one other thing they're doing this weekend, they either want more people in the building or want more people to see it. But maybe Tony Khan did talk again this week about, possibly rebranding ROH and making it AEW Ring of Honor, which would have 2005 Benno rolling in his grave. But maybe that would be the solution to get a bit more mind on it as well. But it's a little bonus on the weekend. Like, and
that's it.
Like, again, for anyone who's only tuning in for us for the first time, who has stumbled across us because of, I don't know, Vietnam Pro Wrestling or something like that, good luck to you, and I hope that Will Ospreay comes over at some point and works those shows. But I don't genuinely believe it's obviously a bigger weekend than WrestleMania, but it does feel like AEW's WrestleMania. It does feel like their big weekend, and like I say, having that there, maybe if they had a few more combined events across the weekend, that could be smart. They could do it in future. But like for me, as like a British fan, and like the thing we were always complaining about, like I think we're finally there. I joked at the start playing the original like All In theme, but they've almost inherited like that kind of that legacy of the first All In, and it being built by Cody and the Bucks and Kenny, and somehow made it like, how many times did TNA struggle to make their WrestleMania? It was originally Bound for Glory, wasn't it? That's our WrestleMania. And then it was Slammiversary. Oh, that's our WrestleMania. ROH did the same thing. Glory by Honor. That's our WrestleMania. It isn't though, is it? You can't just say that. Final Battle like pretty much became it for ROH because it kind of worked as like your last show of the year to build to. But it's hard to establish that. AEW have used that legacy kind of brand with the original All In and taken, what we all knew, that Wembley was going to be gigantic. And, I'll fight with the Americans, as I think I said a couple of times this weekend, until my deathbed when it comes to that. And the various Americans out there, JP, who dared call the first Wembley Stadium show AEW's equivalent of a Saudi show. Like, we knew difference. We knew it's fucking Wembley. You aren't doing your job here as far as like building this show up. And we all knew, the 70,000 or whatever the number was in the building, we're going to have a great time, and we're going to make it an amazing atmosphere and make it look like AEW's WrestleMania. They just didn't get a card and a build that was deserving of that. I don't think any. Remember the Adam Cole and MJF main event defenders? I don't think they exist anymore, mate. I think they're gone.
No.
But again, if they feel like old wounds, they are, and we argue that point to the to the bitter end. Last year, as we've talked about, they did a much better job of building it. You were always going to get that lesson of attendance, whether that was because of the way they promoted the first year or was just more that attrition that happens when it's the second year. We can debate that forever, but they definitely did a better job of making it feel like it was AEW's WrestleMania. And I think this year, like the third proper year of AEW running it, it's not in London. Hopefully it's back next year based on Tony Khan's comments at the weekend, but it feels like they've almost just decided, yeah, that's right, that's what this should be. I think the UK fans were right all along. Let's just put words in Tony Khan's mouth. Or maybe there's other logic to it, but they've seen the numbers. They saw the pay-per-view buys for that first All In when it was an afternoon show like this one was, and it did way better because people, despite the bill, understood what it was, and they've capitalized on that, and now they're going with it. And it's a show that only started in AEW a couple of years into its run, but it's a show that now has become their WrestleMania, a show that they've branded as that, and this being their their biggest American attendance, and it's going to be their biggest gate. 2.5 million, is it, JP? I think is the number Meltz is floating around there, depending on whether we pass 25,000 or hit 30,000 with the ticket sales for this one. Like, from a business point of view, it feels like their WrestleMania, and from, like I say, the lessons of the last 2 years, it's now promoted like it's their WrestleMania, and it feels like the perfect storm.
Oh yeah, it has. The very apt analogy of perfect storm, given what you've sat through at the weekend as well, which did look like a genuinely perfect storm if you're ranking them. I think there's so much that they've done right for this show, and we can look at the numbers and we can say, well, 25,000, like what was All In doing 2 years ago? It was doing 80, then it was 50, and now it's 25. It's a different kettle of fish for the US markets, for them being kind of spread out. And if they get to 25,000, which I expect they will do,
I think they will.
Buys, I think they will. I think they'll probably do it quite comfortably. Big walk up. They've done the right thing, which is this week, just base yourself in and around, the Curtis Culwell Centre, Arlington, like just base yourself around there, get as many kind of like floating fans who may not have gone to it, may not have been entirely aware. They've made it much more of like, you've got your Dynamite, Collision, Ring of Honor, Starcast as well, of which they've got like kind of a decent lineup in there for that, of people who want to do the convention side of it. And then you've got All In. So like they've actually put in that kind of effort, which isn't the thing even last year when they did a much better job building to All In London 2. They
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, Electric Boogaloo. What they ended up doing was just the Cardiff show, and that was very much late in the day. Look, we're gonna run a Dynamite the weekend before, but it wasn't like there was a whole series of things. So if they are coming back to London next year, and he says, unless he's sabotaged by Coldplay or whoever, then in that case, then they need to do this same sorts of thing. You need to be, they need to be, if they're in London, they need to do Dynamite in London, need to do Collision in London, need to do a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. There's a few venues they could go to that could make it kind of interesting. I mean, even if you use York Hall for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, that would be it, as well as obviously we would say use the Copper Box and a few other places there in between. Like, that suggests that there's actually like more structure and forethought for it as well.
Like at the perfect one next year. I think like Platt says there, totally. That's exactly kind of my point. Like there's brand equity and all in now because everyone saw the Wembley shows and saw how big AEW could potentially be, or was, not even potentially, it literally was, that first time out. But yeah, totally. Like it's like now we're like, okay, so we can combine all those things. We can combine the Wembley Stadium next year. We can combine the lessons we learned the second year. We can combine it just feels like extra effort they put in this year, maybe because it's in America. Maybe there's that unconscious bias. Maybe being more charitable, maybe just because they knew it was going to be a fucking battle to sell tickets. It's still a 40 to 50,000 seater stadium, so they're gonna have to do a job covering it up. But they knew they had the job of making it look respectable and getting to this point, 2025. Let's say it hits 30 or comes close to 30. It's going to be a gigantic achievement, but they had to be boots on the ground to do it. They had to, dare I say, try that a little bit harder. Not that they didn't try, of course they did. When it came to the first All In and the second All In, but like it just feels like they realised a little bit more what needs to be done. And I think we complain about it all the time, don't we? Like when it comes to like the way AW is ran, and we complain about like doing those little things, and you always say having those little jobs and making sure those little admin jobs are done. They're doing it now, aren't they? They absolutely are for this big show.
They are, like, ever since they've got the new person in who's booking all of the venues, I think they've done, in the main, a really good job of, like, kind of, like, you could look at it as attendance, but you almost need to look at it like capacity of the arenas and venues that they're running. And the capacity, it's just is so much up on the year before. Like, it feels like most shows, like even the one in Ontario that they did for Dynamite last week, that did around like 5,000. I think it's an 8,000 seater building. That's as really where Dynamite is at for it at this stage. And they've put in, like I say, they've put in that bit of legwork, and it is an unconscious bias. It is because it's the States, but they have to work harder because they're in the States pretty much all of the time. So they have to put in that extra shift work. And it's quite simple in some ways. What do? You put on your biggest matches you possibly can for this show in order to make it feel special. That's the key. And next year, you do exactly the same. The problem was, I always felt in that first year that they sold so many more tickets than they expected, that all of a sudden, I think they took their foot off the gas. And I think there was an element of that horrible old school wrestling mentality of, well, they've already paid them. We've already got their money. So we don't need to put on the best possible products. It's like, actually, no, what you need to do is you've got a chance to make a claim on one of the biggest cities in the world as being your city. And WWE aren't going to run this venue because, like, they want a site fee. And AEW aren't going to do it. And as much as tickets may end up costing for this, and I heard something about saying Forbidden Door tickets are like really expensive. It's like, I paid 55 quid for fuck's sakes. That's all right in 2025. That's not a problem.
We can get in the door for Oasis for that, mate.
No. Oh, God, no. I'd have to fucking remortgage to get in for Oasis and whatnot, just to go in and Shazam the songs, apparently, like other people were doing, which was...
Or live stream them and sing along badly. That's the other way people go.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're totally right, and it's the perfect convergence of all things. It feels like a big show. It's got that brand equity. I think that sold it, but I think this card sold it too. Like, again, we'll do the predictions and stuff on weekend show, but like broad strokes, I really think this is a really, really strong card that we've got here for All In. Like, and we've joked about it. yes, maybe Dynamite's going to come and go, and there's going to be 2 or 3 more matches added. There's been news stories that might well happen. But you got the men's casino gauntlet, you got the women's casino gauntlet. You think that'd be enough to get as many, Tony Khan's friends on the show as you can? But maybe they'll find other routes for it. But like, even just looking at like the top half of this card, how strong Swerve and Ospreay versus Young Bucks. Whatever you think about the Young Bucks, that's a strong match that's been built well. I think some. Maybe us at one point would have preferred Swerve Ospreay as a singles, but I still think that's a really strong match. Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, obviously been built up, Continental International title, something we've been wishing for a while. It's like all of our wishes are coming true, JP. We'll find out what the monkey's paw is going to be in this scenario, but I can't see it yet. Tony Storm versus Mercedes Moné, again, build hasn't, of the big matches, it's probably had the weakest build in my opinion, but still a really strong match and a big match, and as big a match as you can do in that women's division. And however they got there, Jon Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page feels like a proper world title match, feels like the proper is your most dastardly heel, whether we've loved them or hated them over there the last few months. But they put all that work in, and it wasn't all entertaining. I'm not even sure it was all worth it to get us to this point, but we're at this point and we desperately want to see him get beaten. And yeah, Darby Allin might have been Tony Khan's original plan, but now with the situation in front here, maybe I'm leaning more towards Garrett's school of thought. You've got Hangman and Adam Page, the babyface that sums up AEW, going for the world title in the main event there, WrestleMania. And, as was the case in all of the WrestleManias until Triple H got the world title, the babyface usually goes over in those scenarios. So let's hope that's happening too. That screams like big WrestleMania type extravaganza as well. And like I say, we can get into some of the undercard if you'd like as a preview of our preview. But like, just looking at that overall, maybe quibbling of Swerve and Ospreay aside, I can't think of a stronger top end of a card AEW could put on, unless they maybe added that singles match.
I can't think. Yeah, exactly. And it's not like they're not running enough shows where we are, and we know that within the storyline we're going to get it, aren't we? Yeah. We're going to get it. They just might be saving it for All Out, or they might, or wherever, somewhere along the line that we're going to get that, and that's kind of all right. And I think it's just this. It's almost like I say about the simplicity of it. Like what they've done this time around is they've concentrated on just their own booking. They've ignored outside noise. They've gone, what are the biggest matches that we can do? And there was a lot of I was hearing various scuttlebutt. Obviously Omega Okada is something that they've wanted to do from the moment they signed Okada, and they've been planning that since the end of last year. It's as good a place to do it, even if we would be confident saying it's not going to reach the levels of what the previous 4 matches have done. It's a massive match. And you're looking at that card and you're thinking, outside, I think, for me, of the tag team title match and the TNT title match, which I don't have as much interest in because I'm just expecting it to be a Carl Fletcher coronation. Sorry, spoiler alert on my predictions for this. They're the one, but then you need some mid-card matches, don't you? And at least there are some stakes for them. So I'm kind of like, in the main, I'm all right with them being there. But you look at that top end, like you've said there as well. You've got, you've often said, Hangman Page, the story of him is like the story of AEW. He is your central figure, and he's worked his way back in to being the central figure of this. So, and he
might be the only wrestler everyone likes. If you're an AEW fan, if you're not certain people, if you enjoy AEW, you enjoy Hangman Page. He's the one people will agree on. People will disagree on Ospreay. I don't know if they'll disagree on Swerve. Maybe he's the other one, but like Hangman feels the babyface, the AEW babyface.
But this is like a culmination. He is, but this is like a culmination of making a series of very good common sense decisions, because we said at the start of the year there is pressure on them. Ratings were doing badly, attendance wasn't good, there was all sorts of kind of general sense of confusion about where they were going. They weren't delivering on some of the really big matches that they could do. There were people who were often missing. There was all these kind of things that do breed a sort of sense of negativity amongst the fan base. It's like, well, they've made Dynamite and Collision better shows. They've just booked them very well for this year. If you look at them in the way, they've done an excellent job. So they've stemmed that kind of bleeding. Yeah. On this card, they've just booked what are the big matches we can do. They've managed to get rid. They're going to be getting rid of a title that doesn't need to exist. Cool.
How long for the chat asks? That is a question with AEW. It is part of it, but it sums up the company, doesn't it? At this point, this show, all the goodwill that we've all got towards AEW right now is summed up in this show. Because why do we all have goodwill for AEW? It's like, again, MJF said, not to give him too much credit in his interview this week, he was also putting over Nick Khan and Triple H. So, we'll be careful where we give him credit. He's working an angle. It is what it is. But like he said, like it's the locker room right now. The people there are the people who you should be listening to, and the people who should be pushed are the people who are hungry. It's the people like Swerve, the people like Ospreay, who want to push the company forward in the right direction, who want have a certain idea of what their stuff should be and feel like they've got the power to do that now. And then you add to that, Kenny in the right place he should be. I'd move him up a little bit more. Hopefully before he retires, we get like a little bit of a higher up the card run. But Hangman Page in the position he's in, whether he wants to be on there or not, based on this story, is exactly the right thing, and it's represented right here where it matters on their biggest card. And like that has been their ace in the hole this year. Is like they've turned things around both from like a logic and a booking point of view, because it feels again like this show. They had a list of what they wanted for the show, and then they worked backwards and they worked towards it. It wasn't haphazard. It wasn't last minute. And we knew these matches, weeks and weeks and weeks ago. And then also, like I say, they put the people in the right position who should be there, and they're in the right position on this show too. Yeah.
And they paced how they planned these matches out. So like the first week of the build post Double or Nothing and post the Owen Hart finals, it was like, okay, we're gonna concentrate on 2 matches, and it's like Moxley and Hangman and Mercedes and Tony Storm. And obviously we'd be slightly more down on what they did in those first couple of weeks with Mercedes and Tony Storm. But the idea of just focusing on there are 2 big world title matches, that's fine. Then it went to Kenny and Okada, and it's like, okay, you've now got a big match in there as well for number 3. Then after that, it was like, well, what are we going to do with Swerve and Ospreay, and you work in the Young Bucks, which, regardless of would I prefer to see him in a singles match? Yeah, as a personal preference. Do I think this could be the match tonight? Absolutely. Like, I think there's so much good about that. And you look at the Casino Gauntlet match, having been at one of these at the last All In, they were a hell of a lot of fun. And you're just hoping that the crowd are going to be like as up for that as well. You need to open with one of these, really, ideally. Probably the women's match, because it's just less star-laden.
And you probably want to give them a good moment here. Yeah. The women, there's probably like anybody they could have called in as a surprise is probably getting called for Evolution this weekend. But the men's, we'll get into predictions obviously at the weekend, but you could do an Eddie Kingston. Maybe that's a little bit low for where he should be. He should probably involved in the mock stuff, but maybe the surprises you can do that we're not thinking of that you could make that interesting with. I guess you could do Nigel again. You could do something,
Would you? Because it's a funny one with start time, because what is it? As of recording this today, I think for us, and I'm speaking like US time, it's 6 p.m. for the 0 hour and 8 p.m. for the main show. Yeah. So that's a great
2 hours 0 hour.
2 hours 0 hour, which is like, oh well, it won't mean anything for the first half an hour anyway. And you can put really whatever fluff you want to put on there just to warm up the crowd. That's absolutely fine. I that should be the job of a pre-show, and there's enough good wrestlers they've got who aren't going to be in the Casino Gauntlet that they can do that stuff with, and enough CMLL people they can throw into the mix. I just don't want to see them this week needlessly add on a couple of things onto the show. Go, we could add on 1 or 2 matches, because I'm looking at match times. Those Gauntlet matches are going to go long. The main event's going to go long. Omega Okada is going to go long. Yeah. The tag match is going to go long. The tag team title match, the TNT title match, they may only end up being 10 to 15 minutes apiece. And the women's world title match will probably be just under 20 as well. That's a lot of, that's a fair whack of time, because those Gauntlet matches can end up being like 45 minutes apiece.
I think you're right.
They can end up being monsters. So in some ways, I just want them to leave the
card. It's kind of perfect, isn't it? It won't be like these words won't age well, because come Dynamite, they'll add something. Of course they will.
Of course they will.
They'll add something. But there's a 2 hour 0. Maybe they could throw them in there instead. I don't know. But the undercard they got now, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the Hate Syndicate, whatever you think of the tag division, and they've probably done a better job, but they belong on this card. Hopefully Jet Speed get a win. If not, the patriarchy. I'm not sure about the patriarchy element of it, but they could do with building this tag division up. You've got that there. Like I say, you've got Adam Cole and Kyle Fletcher, which is perfect for, again, if you're going to make a perfect card for AEW. Maybe Adam Cole wouldn't be on my personal one, but Kyle Fletcher absolutely would, based on his recent run. And you want want, to Adam Cole's credit, I suppose, he slots in a certain place in the card right now. That level of match should be on here too at TNT, like the European title. Listen to our deep cut on it. It had a place. WWE just didn't learn that over time, but you can do that and you can have that in your undercard. I'm mostly fine with that. Yeah, there might be a couple of people you want to give like a charity run out, but again, you can do that with the gauntlets. Maybe this is the time we could be a little bit more strict with it, because you're right. I'm excited. To me, you're all excited because it's 8:00. UK time on a Saturday night, like that's amazing, for a pay-per-view time. Like that's perfect. But for me, it's 2 a.m, which is actually kind of perfect for me, because I'll just be nostalgic for like the old days when I used to stay up for AEW pay-per-views anyway. So I'm used to staying up till 9 or 10 in the morning to get those things in. So it'll still be great for me as well. But like, yeah, you don't want it running until midday my time, or or user sitting there and it's like, bloody hell, it's like 3 a.m. Usually the WWE pay-per-views are finished by now, and this one's still going. There is still an upper limit. It's the big show of the year, and Tony Khan's going to want to blow his load.
But then he just needs to show that element of restraint of going, I'll put this on the 0 hour. That's all it needs to be. Just put it on the 0 hour. It doesn't need to be anything else from that. And that would be, for me, that would be kind of perfect for that, because I just think if they can, what the potential of what this show could do, because it could be, and we'll talk about it match by match on the weekend show. I'm really struggling hard not to go into full preview mode at the moment. But I
need to think about my predictions a bit more. I'm all right. Yeah. I can wait.
I've been looking at betting odds for it, and it's interesting. There's a lot of quite even, close stuff. It's like, okay, it'll be interesting to see how those change between now and Thursday, or now and Saturday. But I think this is like, there's so much that good could come from this. Like, it could set off the company in give them such a big boost at a time when WWE shows they're shit, for want of like those big shows. They're not very good. They're generally at best mid. This is stuff like, actually, we can just blow them out of the water in front of a big crowd, bigger than anything they're going to be doing this weekend. And you can let them have their fucking wrong killings and carrying crosses and lose their shit for that. They can just put on a really great wrestling show with really good, compelling characters who people are into, and then kickstart the second half of the year of going, where do we need to get towards the end of the year, and what do you do for the rest of the other 5 months? And there's a really good potential for them to go and get all guns blazing.
If they stick the landing on this, I think I'm going to stand by it. It's going to be possibly AEW's best period ever. Like, I can't remember who said it, but someone said, like, even their best period early on was kind of, a lot of it was fresh, it was new, it was like, that momentum of being the new company. They haven't got any of that. It's just good because it's good right now. And this would be, and like you say, they are doing those little things, because we do expect Swerve and Ospreay to offshoot from this show. We do hopefully expect Hangman to win, and then us to move on to things that aren't Deck Riders. And maybe Darby Allin comes back and him and Mox do something outside of the world title picture. Like, that's positive and something to look forward to as well. If they thread that needle too, I'm probably going to be saying that at the end of it. I'll hold my water until then. But yeah, just fantastic stuff, and it's amazing to be excited about a big show. Ewan says there he's unfortunately going to a family party on Saturday at the same time as All In. With it shock you to learn that Matty has organised a night out with maybe one of our co-hosts who might be otherwise disposed now on Saturday night during All In. That shows you what that lad thinks of the All In show. I think he dragged some other people into that as well. Unbelievable. Well, maybe they can get it on someone's phone and force him to watch it. Liam, I'm trusting you. Bring a tablet or something like that. Get it on in a bar somewhere. Madness. In Garrett's defence, I don't think Garrett knew it was 8:00, and I think Matty hid that from him. So there we go. I think Connor's off to that one as well. But there you go. But Connor says there, the unpredictability of it is part of how good it is at the moment. Yeah, we don't 100% know what's coming out of it. I don't know. The lads will have a cracking time. I'm sure they'll have a great night out, and they can watch this 7-hour pay-per-view the next day when they get up in the morning with sore heads. I guess is going to be the way. But I'm not sure we'll have a co-host for that Sunday All In review if we can get that off on Sunday.
I would personally. I mean, and I'm looking forward, because I'm going around to Joe's house, having a bit of a barbecue beforehand, which will be during the kind of 0 hour, and then sitting in and watching this, which will just be brilliant, because obviously for Joe it'll be, he's he's going to have his own thoughts on where things are going to be going, and it's always just interesting to kind of like be able to have that kind of conversation with him and being able to watch it at a sensible time. It's very, very, very rare with all of the young children I have that I'm not watching any of these big shows like at 6, 7 a.m. the next day and just doing my utmost to avoid the kind of discourse. And now it feels like, no, actually, I can see this all happen in real time. And I think you mentioned it earlier on because the numbers for All In Wembley was so good, that first one they did. Those afternoon pay-per-views, please God, let this become a thing. Just do it. Do these afternoon shows. Like, you're going to get a bigger audience overseas.
Yeah.
AEW fans in the States are going to be able to watch it, and they get their evenings as well. God, if people are used to watching a lot of live sports in the afternoon, so why should wrestling be any different? It's only because it's this kind of it's a Vince McMahon thing. It's a thing that he kind of said it has to be Sunday night, and therefore it just becomes like the rule of thumb. And it's like, actually, no, you can do some of this stuff in the afternoon. And so if this is doing really good numbers and good pay-per-view numbers as well as good like attendance numbers, then I just hope that's something that people go, do you know what? Why don't we just do this in the afternoon? And it suits a global audience so much better. Then, yeah, fucking down with that.
Best for everyone, isn't it? Again, except for young Matthew, who's going to have to be getting up the next day to watch Saturday night's main event anyway. He did offer to record a review of that on Sunday. I was like, mate, we will get lynched by our podcast listeners if we try and review Saturday night's main events to the All In. I see what you're doing there. Even he's trying to counter-program it, as Simon has said here. So yeah, my original plan was to do All In Sunday and do that on Monday with Matty, but things might change. I'll let you know by weekend show exactly what we're going to do to try and make it work now, but we'll find a way.
Does he seriously expect we're going to like fuck off All In Texas to talk about Seth Rollins versus LA Knight? No, that is never happening. Exactly. NXT Great American Bash, there's a fair chance by me that will never be watched. It'll just be it was a show that was on, and I. Well,
Evolution's on the Sunday, so if we're going to cover that, we'll have to wait for after Sunday to do Matty's show. But like I said, whether that's the Monday or the All In one falls to that, we'll see. It has put us a bit on the back foot, but we'll figure it all out. But I'm excited. I can't wait for the weekend. I want to throw a quick note in again. We'll go through some predictions on the weekend show on Thursday. I do think this ROH show is solid. I really do. Bandido Takeshita, I'm excited to see that. Athena Thunder Rosa, you would like to have seen Athena in something a bit more significant, but she is the ROH Women's Champion, so it makes sense. I think she'll be in the Women's Gauntlet, won't she, on All In? I think they'd be daft not to let her have that pop in Texas. So Aaron Thunder Rosa on that show. Lee Moriarty, Blue Panther, Sons of Texas Infantry, and Nick Wayne Titan. Nick Wayne Titan might surprise you. It might be solid as well. I think that's a solid little card as well. I'm all right with that. Looks better than Saturday night's main event does anyway, and whatever's going on with Evolution. Those poor women who, like I say, half of them might be leaving the show to go watch. Is it Beyonce who's running over the road in that's the other fucking own goal from the debate. What are they doing? There's always going to be gigs going on, but literally it's over the road. Parking and stuff is a problem. And again, it's the third show on a weekend, and obviously if you count the other stuff going on as well, obviously it's going to sell less. Meltzer was saying, I don't know if I agree with him. I think it was always going to sell less. Saturday night's main events, you should say 10,731, probably going to sell out by the time they get there. It's Goldberg's retirement match. That's a big draw. It is interesting they've done it here.
Not a sellout.
He probably wants to. It will. I think it will be though by the time it gets
16,000.
Saying that. I think he was saying there was another couple thousand was what they can fill in. He said he wouldn't be able to do 16 with the setup. Again, it's always do whatever they want, can't they, with the setup? But I think they'll do another couple of thousands for that. Gunther Goldberg. It should be a draw in Georgia. You would think Goldberg being there. Seth Rollins, LA Knight, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, less so, but. Yeah, if that wasn't the case, would Evolution have done better? I don't know. They've never acted like they cared about that show. I think the reports that came out at the weekend from the upset members of the women's roster are completely correct. It is completely there. It is there because Hunter's still bitter about AEW killing his beloved black and gold NXT, and it is just purely a revenge act and not really an act of a man who really wanted to do a second Evolution, especially on this weekend. And yeah, the 5,000 tickets sold and the lackluster build tell you exactly what the company thinks of that show.
If there is an emotion that I could just permanently live on, it's that man being pissed off. Honestly, I almost live for it. So I can't stand the prick. And the levels of spite of this, and it's more of a damning indictment of them, because when Tony Khan did get drawn into these kind of pissing contests, it's when they took their eye off AEW, and it was just like, no, you need to fucking concentrate on your show, your product, you're the challenger brand. And instead, WWE, rather than look at themselves at times of how can we build to a good show, they've decided to set up these shows of just existing to be in competition and take away from that challenger brand rather than make themselves better. And it's a point I've been saying since I've gone on Netflix, is like, they're not very good. They really are. Their booking has been poor. It's been, in the main, I think certainly for the big shows, pretty boring. I know sometimes Raw can hit on stuff on a week-to-week basis.
The Raw wasn't bad this week. We'll get into it in a bit, maybe.
There's little bits of it that like kind of work, but it isn't. But their mentality is, you need to stitch up your competitor to try and stop them, and that's not your thought. Isn't what can make them do better.
Yeah,
it's a really it's a dangerous mentality, because it just shows they're taking their eye off the ball. It's like, we're going to just do a show here just to hurt them, and it's not worked.
Which speaks to AEW's success this year, which has been to concentrate, on themselves. We obviously in the last year we've had embarrassing moments. Like, I think it was in the last calendar year, wasn't it? The CM Punk CCTV footage that went on Dynamite and stuff like that, where they have had too much of an eye on what WWE are doing and what's going on over there. Like, they're concentrating on themselves and concentrating on what makes them good, and what we all like about AEW has made AEW better. And like I said, I joked about like the tribalism. Yes, okay. As I think Matty did in fact say himself on Twitter this week, yeah, we can compare the 20,000 of All In to what Saturday Night's main event is doing, but do we want to compare Dynamites to Raws and even Collisions to SmackDowns? And yes, we're still in a rebuilding phase for AEW, but hopefully that will come too. In all seriousness, in the long term, as me and Garrett talked about. But yeah, that's WWE's biggest problem. Like, they don't really, I don't know, it just feels like they're lacking a mission right now, and like I say, they're doing stuff like this out of spite, and they have overplayed the hand with it. We'll go through the card on weekend show. I don't even think it's not that strong a card. Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Tiffany Stratton, Trish Stratus. They always bust Trish Stratus out, don't they? When it's Blake Grass in case of emergency, it's a show we need a legend on. Becky Lynch, Bayley, Lia Valkyria. They have built that up quite well, obviously, on Raw this week. JC Jane, Jordan Grace. Good to see Jordan Grace in the spot. Naomi, Jade Cargill in No Holds Barred. To be fair, that's a match that they could have saved for a standalone pay-per-view, and they put on here. Just feels a bit haphazard outside of that, really.
It is, isn't it? I've seen one of the criticisms of the build, and this is probably my issue for not following week to week WWE TV at points and just sort of hitting the main plot points, is a lot of it is champions challenging their challengers. And there's been like a common theme of a lot of it. It's the way you put stuff together, because the way you put stuff together is the stuff that gets people interested. It works. If you want to take Hangman Page, Hangman Page has to go through a grueling tournament, defeating Will Ospreay in order to get the chance to take on Jon Moxley. So there's a lot. There's a story over a couple of months, and then you've got Ospreay's got his good reasons to win, and you got Hangman. So you think, okay, that kind of works. Here, it does feel like they've thrown so much stuff together, and it's a shame, because it's been done in such a haphazard way. They've not spent like what they should have done, which is a couple of months building to this. Look to do this show in like September or wherever, and it's also on the back of loads and loads of other big shows they've done.
Yeah, giving it its own like spotlight. It's not just in the shadow of AEW and Beyonce. It's in the shadow of Goldberg too. On an Atlanta, Georgia weekend. It's daft, but obviously, like I say, we'll be going through the match by match and doing some predictions and such on weekend show on Thursday this week. We're treating it like WrestleMania weekend. There's pretty much daily shows until the weekend when things kick off. But obviously, I'll be doing another Grapple Live tomorrow with Andy Ogden joining me as guest tomorrow as well. So maybe I'll get some of his thoughts on the WWE versus AEW aspect of this over this year. You can do a preview of the big night out on Saturday. There just weren't 363 other days in a year. Matty could have arranged it, JP. There's nothing he could do. It's a coincidence. Let's just use all the excuses WWE do when they counter promo AEW. But that lad knew what he was doing. But hopefully they will have a cracking night too. But yeah, we'll preview that too. But yeah, obviously we'll have all that on weekend show. It is a week I'm excited for. But yeah, there is obviously some other stuff going on as well. I was gonna throw in some more of those MJF quotables here as we get into like the other AEW news to go into here. But essentially, he said all the things you'd want him to say. It was very raw company for MJF. He kind of, to be fair, he was quite clever the way he worded it. It was like, they say we're not competition, but they're clearly counter-programming us, and anyone with a brain can see that, which is like, yeah, baby facing himself to AEW fans, and then he has to throw in and I'd do that too. Credit to Nick Khan and Triple H, a really smart thing to do, absolutely. But at the end of the day, shows that we are competition. But yeah, he had that quote there, and he obviously talked a little bit about how the locker room seems at a better place and everyone's gearing the same way. Put himself over as far as it being a ratings draw. I don't know whether those numbers would hold up as being AEW's most consistent quarter-hour draw. But I have said it before. Like he did have some blame for the little fall that AEW had post the first All In, mainly about the program that he was working. But yeah, there is some truth in what he's saying there. But yeah, definitely feels like AEW just feels like a positive place right now, even in the locker room when it's even slipping out in MJF interviews. That tells you something.
It really does, doesn't it? And I think it just says, because there's direction and there's planning and there's progress and there's building to it as well. And he's going to deliver these things in this way. And he makes for good copy, doesn't he? MJF and some of the stuff that he says.
He's one of us, really, isn't he? He listens to half these podcasts, probably not us, but
yeah.
He knows what people are saying. He's hyper aware. Yeah,
and he's probably aware of the fact that actually him not being in the main event scene and being with Hurt Syndicate has actually helped.
This has been his best run.
A positive feeling for him. Yeah,
he's in the right place. He really is. He's in the right for right now. Like, yeah, as somebody who this is the best way to give you a break from main event MJF, isn't it? To give him this little side mission to repeat himself. It's good stuff.
And we can get to him and Hangman Page, and we'll get into the prediction stuff on.
He's having his cake and he's eating it too. Like when we All In, like we were saying, is he having a Mystico match? Is he having a Mark Briscoe match? Nah, he's doing this gauntlet and he's going to work them both, and it's built around him. That's basically his match, isn't it? This casino gauntlet. So yeah, it's worked out really well.
Yeah, worked out really well for that, and the good news keeps on coming for AEW as well. All Out in Toronto is an update. 8,300 is what they've crossed so far. In terms of like the ticket updates there, I think it's done like a sort of like a pretty big house. The maximum setup they can do is like just under 18,000. It's set up at the minute for around 10,000. You got to remember, this is September 20th. We are a long way away. If All In delivers, and like obviously then it's Forbidden Door afterwards as well. So there's a bit of a breather from North American big shows. This is another show that's going to be there with like one of those massive gates. I'd expect it to be doing. I expect it certainly to hit the 10,000 mark. I'd be absolutely flabbergasted if it didn't, and hopefully do something sort of 12 to 14,000, which again, really impressive. And it'll be a big gate as well in there at the same time. So yeah,
Scotiabank's a big place. I've been there. It's a tough ask, but they've done the right thing. There's that little breather this year between that and All In and All Out on week 1, week 2. We're not doing that. We're not doing that anymore. And we didn't do it last year. We've edged towards a definitely a more healthy system, but I think it'll benefit from that too. But it's just I include this as well, mostly because the numbers are interesting from a news point of view. But what an exciting little period for AEW. We've got All In, and then like I say, All Out isn't too far in the future that it's going to be a huge problem. We've got that to look forward to. We've got Forbidden Door to look forward to. In between it, and there's some show called SummerSlam going on, and obviously we got the Saturday night's main event and stuff and that to cover. It's a fucking busy few weeks of stuff. Every other spotlight's going to be a pay-per-view review at this point. And a G1, obviously, we'll be talking about that in a bit. Of course, the G1 opening and closing, as well as some of the matches in between. It does look all right. But wow.
Absolutely fucking insane. The amount of stuff on here. Absolutely fucking insane for stuff, particularly over this summer period. So, again, really good for that one as well. And someone else who's going to be making a return at All In as well, Jim Ross. Who is, thank goodness, cancer-free. He was 40 years old. 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 He He's battled with a load of health problems. I know there's been a couple of sort of various forms of cancer that he's had as well. He said he'd be back for All In on July 12th, which, regardless of thoughts on how he is as a commentator in this day and age, is a really good news story there as well, and would be a big moment when he gets introduced. And they do that Oklahoma marching band stuff when he goes out there as well. So, yeah, he is going to be there. Whether or not he said that he does want to be there to do Okada versus Omega, which is...
Can he not? Can we give him the pre-show?
Yeah.
No, it's nice. It's a nice story, isn't it? I'm glad he's held well enough. And of course, Tony Khan's going to say, of course we're going to include JR. We're nothing without JR. He's going to say all the nice things, and he should say the nice things. I don't know. Could we be tactical about what we give JR? Saying the last couple of times, he seemed a bit more on it, didn't he?
As he should be, because he's being paid good money for this as well. And I don't want to hear him, from the founding member of the Kiss Your Ass Club, complaining about small plot points in AEW seems a bit churlish. So I don't really want any of that stuff. My hope would be that he's in a good frame of mind when he comes in. It's a good news event that he's there, and he just comes out and goes, I just want to commentate on a really good, cracking wrestling match for that. And if he does, then that's all good. I don't want him doing the main just because it's Texas Death and there's going to be so much going on in terms of bells and whistles and violence. He can end up getting pissed off about it because that's just in his nature to do it. So as long as he doesn't do that, I'm all right with him coming in for doing, and it'll only be 1 or 2 matches anyway, I'm fine with that.
Percentage-wise, with it being such a long show, I think we'll be all right. I think we'll live. We can give them this one. But I mean, to get into some AEW TV again, we went along with the opening bit, but we'll preview Dynamite. It looks like a fun card this week. It looks like a good little few last bits of build for All In, like I say, to perfect this and put the icing on the cake. We got MJF and Mark Briscoe having their talky talk. We got Samoa Joe versus Wheeler Yuta. We have a women's 4-way: Megan Bayne, Ty Mello, Queen Amarita, and Tekla. Am I pronouncing that right this time? In a 4-way for the number 2 spot in the casino battle royal, and we got a Death Riders tag, which will just be your last match on the night to have a last little showdown between Moxley and Hangman, as well as a showdown between Mercedes and Tony Storm. But like we keep saying, I think the job's done as far as building this pay-per-view. But it'll be nice to have those little moments of icing. What I want to say, as far as the TV goes this week, Collision. Did you see Collision this week? The rest of it was a collision. There was good stuff. There was, some stuff where it's I see why you're not on Dynamite every week. We'll get into that. But as far as the match of the week, I think it genuinely, I'm not doing a bit. Outrunners might be in the match of the week this week versus FTR. I'd heard going in that it was good, so I kind of didn't know what to expect, but it was kind of more of a, how will this be good? And the answer was bit of blood, bit of limb selling, bit of emotion, and a bit of FTR. Despite some of the comic lead-ins we haven't loved, specifically from their manager, leaning into that old school 80s evil tag team act, and doing it in the best way I've seen them do in a very, very long time, versus the Outrunners, who, for whatever you want to say about them, is a bit of a comedy act and a bit of a light-hearted act, just being these sympathetic baby faces who are just selling their asses off, and fiery as well when it came to the comebacks as well. It was a match made in heaven, and it was a match, I said it, I would rather FCR were doing something more significant for this pay-per-view run, and I don't know whether that was Edge and Christian or what it might have been. But this was something they had to do because of how closely associated they were on Collision up until the FTR heel run. And even I didn't expect it to go this well. This was absolutely brilliant. And I don't think the Outrunners will have a match this good ever again in their careers, don't get me wrong. But it was a reminder of how fucking good FTR are and the money that is on the table. It's almost a shame Hurt Syndicate have gone heel. I don't know how that would work, them as the babyfaces versus FTR. But there's another heel act that's really hot in this tag division. It's just a shame we don't have more babyfaces you could do a little bit more with than you can do the Outrunners. FTR were brilliant here, absolutely brilliant, and washed away some of that bad taste I've maybe had there in some recent weeks.
This was fantastic. I mean, the thing that I heard being sort of bandied about for it, and is it felt like watching Midnight Express versus Rock and Rolls. It had that kind of, it was very much a classic, what you'd expect of an old school tag team match from 4 people who are completely immersed in that style.
But in the least cosplay way. Because I feel like FTR can be a bit like the Outrunners. Maybe it's because Outrunners are already cosplay. It kind of cancelled each other out, and it felt like a real, like, no, they're actually doing this match rather than what it can feel like a little bit with them sometimes.
I think it was because we had that little bit of story going in that helped. The idea that they were they were partners and they got on at various points, and they did that. They did the Predator like arm wrestle / handshake thing, and that, you know, it worked so well into it that there was that bit of edge, and the blood added for the edge as well. But it was also blood that made sense within the context of this. I just thought this was tremendous. At the end of this match, I went, can we add both of these teams to that tag team match? Just add them both in, because if there ever was going to be a night where, and I'm toing and froing on this, the idea of putting the titles on the Outrunners, but if you ever were going to do it, it's a dangerous thought, isn't it? Maybe I should just stop there and say no. But if you were going to put in 2 tag teams into that and just make it like, you know, a 5-way or 6-way tag team match, these are 2 teams that you throw into it.
I'd take FTR. Add an extra. I was like saying that Christian's already a heel team. Maybe that'd be too much, but in a different universe.
But it was. I thought this was absolutely brilliant stuff. Like, I really loved this match. Like, it was definitely. I'm struggling to think of anything else I saw this weekend. I mean, the Taichi Ishii stuff from that New Japan Soul show was really good fun, but this was like, I just thought this was absolutely brilliant. Loved it.
Yeah. I thought the setup for, obviously, like we said, we've already kind of covered it. The casino gauntlet with Mystico and the lads and Mark Briscoe being like the team of babyfaces who were going to take the evil MJF down. I thought that was really well done on Collision this week. I thought Kyle Fletcher, again, was fantastic on Collision this week. Buy your stock in Kyle Fletcher while it's still going is probably the bit of advice. And maybe sell your Daniel Garcia stock. I don't know. Or maybe hold on to it. Maybe it's going to come good at some point. He looked fine as well on the show, but country mile now in difference between them two isn't that a wild thing considering where Kyle Fletcher started and where we all expected Daniel Garcia to be. Kyle Fletcher very much coming out of that match was like, yep, you're the one who should be on All In. Sorry Danny, I love you, but Kyle Fletcher's the fuck guy right now. He was great.
He is, and I kind of think the more I think about it, the more I think that TNT title slot is actually a good positioning for it. I was a bit wary because it isn't top of the card, but if you're going to do anything with the belt, put it on a young guy who could, maybe you could do like a decently long run with it. And Kyle Fletcher is the person to do that with. They did try doing that at Daniel Garcia, and they just simply forgot to put the TNT title on TV. Or they just left it off. It just wasn't a thing. It was like, he's TNT champion, but it just really wasn't a thing for this. Whereas what you're hoping for is you get to All In, and it should just be the coronation of Kyle Fletcher defeating Adam Cole, and that is the end of it. And then you set up maybe a longer, more protracted feud with Daniel Garcia if you're going to go to that. Then afterwards, you know, which I'd be okay with as a kind of like a placeholder. But just Kyle Fletcher is honestly, what a year he has had.
What a career he's had. What a 5 years he's had, just like from seeing him. Like we always just joke about in Wolverhampton to where we are now. It's unbelievable stuff. But if that's it, they're the highlights really, I'd say, of Collision to go out your way to see this week. Maybe we'll talk a bit more of the in-ring content on weekend show. But our finally story from AEW this week. I enjoyed this when I saw it on Twitter this week, JP. We didn't get this at all in London either of the times. They're getting all-in themed trains over in Dallas at the minute, or at least trams. I guess they're saying it's the DART train. Is that like the tram system in Texas they've got going at the minute? Fully wrapped in all-in regalia. Look how beautiful it is. I feel like that was another thing the first year. Maybe it was just the idea of it because it was just cool, wasn't it? That like, you'd get the underground and there'd be like an all-in poster and you'd see an all-in poster on the side of a bus. Although for me, more in photos than I actually saw in reality when I was down in London the couple of weeks before that. Last year, I don't know. It didn't feel like they did quite as much. Maybe they did and I just missed it. But there you go. Putting the money where their mouth is. And finally, AEW story. What a lovely looking specimen. That train / tram / whatever it is. They're thinking of putting them in Liverpool for the new Everton Stadium. It's probably a bit late now, but I'd take them. And you could wrap them in all in regalia. Liverpool fans will travel.
This is like, again, if we're talking about like just trying to get a few extra people and do that brand awareness, this is the kind of stuff you do. Yeah, there's a cost to it for you being able to kind of brand these, and it looks like trams to me. When you say dart, I think of like the Dublin like metro network that goes around Dublin, but
can't escape.
But this is the kind of stuff you do just to have that awareness of there is this other big wrestling show going on this weekend, and like get yourself along to it. It's simple things like you say. They never did that here. I mean, I'm not expecting them to spray.
That's right. Phil would have found his way to the venue if they had. You know, he'd be like, "Oh, get on that train. It's got my face on it. Sorted."
He would have still bitched about that completely. He still would have kicked off. He still
they planned the whole time, didn't
he?
He knows his way now, London.
Yeah.
He's got the Uber app. You can't tell me landlord Phil doesn't have the Uber app installed on his phone.
Well, he probably just gives shitty ratings out as well. That seems like exactly a very Phil move to make. But
that's very true.
Good luck to them. It's definitely like, I think for them, like that's the kind of stuff when I spoke about like advertising and marketing that I wanted them to do. And so the other thing that they should be doing this week, added on to it, all those local news shows, all those local TV spots and like talk shows and everything else around the Dallas metro area, do all of them. Like, get people on all of them, just so you've got this presence and just so you're bigging it up. And even if they don't do that, they might decide to get it on pay-per-view and watch it.
We'll see. But there we go. There's your AEW. I mean, to get into the WWE news, I was going to include some Raw stuff, but to be honest, there isn't a huge amount to say. What we said earlier kind of sums it up. Bill and Gunther had one last face-to-face in ring. I enjoyed Bill turning up in as Gunther was cutting a promo in ring in his little, was it a Rev Ferrari that he had popped up the side of? I don't know where he was. Like, was he just like hanging around in the car park until it was time for him to do a run-in? Like, I mean, if he wanted to fight Gunther, surely he should have got there before Gunther got in the ring. Just coincidental timing. He's done well. It felt very 90s TV wrestling, to be honest. Maybe that was the shout to give him that. But would have been more 90s TV wrestling if he could have put his fist through a window. That's full Bill Goldberg. Maybe we'll get that on Saturday. But yeah, it seems like there might be a bit of news surrounding obviously Sami Zayn being wiped out again on TV, which feels like the fourth or fifth time that it's happened this year. Seth reads the dirt sheets because his little bodyguards did get a little bit more action this week, and Braun Breaker especially got to even talk on the mic at the top of Raw this week. JP he's a living, breathing human being. He's not just a bouncer that stands behind Seth Rollins in a suit. He did get a little bit more to do, and a big part of that was taking out Sami as well. But yeah, they were the main highlights, and the build I mentioned earlier to Evolution and Saturday night's main event. It was your usual competent Triple H build and block type show. Really, it wasn't the most notable, but it was fine.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I saw some of like the Raw highlights that they had on YouTube, so I didn't have a chance to sit down and watch the whole show, and it seemed like you said that word competent for it.
The new Grande Americano stuff still makes me laugh, and it shouldn't because it's crap. But yeah.
It's just that for Sami Zayn, I think if there's ever someone who does like that groundswell of opinion for him, like Jesus, what you're hoping for is that he gets to like a bloody big like I want to see him get a Mania title shot. Frankly, I think that's the next big story they could tell at WrestleMania. Whether or not they ever do that, fuck knows. But knowing them,
the other big takeaway was Penta getting the big match against Seth. I'd still rather he didn't lose to Seth Rollins at this point, but like I do think, I'm not sure they're getting Penta right, but he's certainly over. And he certainly do. I wouldn't have guessed that he would be like doing better. Well, maybe I would have guessed with like the charisma and stuff like that, but like I wouldn't have guessed like the difference would be this strong between him and Phoenix, who's now teaming with Andrade over on SmackDown. I seen some calls to put them together as a team, but like the only thing WWE hate more than luchadors is tag teams, so I don't think that would be a positive for either of them, to be honest. I think Phoenix just needs to, I don't know, go back to AEW or I don't know, impress the right people. He just feels a bit lost in the shuffle right now, whereas Penta has, he's slotting in perfectly. Like he's not quite a main eventer, but he's in that upper mid card Seth kind of stratosphere right now, and gets the featured spots on Raw week on week. It's quite interesting.
Isn't Phoenix teaming with Andrade? I don't know if I'm coming across as a robot here as well. Am I?
He is. No, you're not. No, you're not. But yeah,
okay.
It's Phoenix and Andrade. Yeah, that's the scene we mentioned before.
If only he had a brother he could team with. in there as well at the same time.
Oh, you definitely didn't hear me because I was arguing against that.
I know.
I don't think that's a good idea, but
No.
we'll. I think I'd rather push them both as singles. But there we go. That's what I'll let you do a refresh. But that's what's going on over on Monday Night Raw. I was going to go to JP for this section as far as the WWE news goes, but while he's refreshing, I'll go through it. We do have an update in the Janel Grant case. Her bill of discovery against Dr. Colin Coker is going to be allowed and has been filed this week. So for anybody keeping score on this thing, the goodies are up and the baddies. And if you're going to say baddies, like, look at the fucking state of this bloke. This feels like a crap alive now. Look at him, Colin Coker. Any picture I've seen and this is just a Fightful picture. When I've seen Post do it, when I've seen F4W do it, when I've seen any of these news aggregators do it, fella just doesn't look good. But obviously he is the doctor to the stars that was treating Janel Grant on the behest of Vince McMahon. And yes, the Grant has requested any possible travel logs or any other evidence related to the purposes of the IV treatments and supplements she received from Peak Wellnesses, as well as the practices and policies of the clinic. Any security footage that includes her or includes Vince McMahon on property that belonged to Colca or the clinic between the relevant dates of 2019 to 2022, and she's been granted that, which hopefully she'll be granted as well the right to go through the emails and correspondence with Vince McMahon as well, because you'll imagine there'll be some damning stuff in here and there'll be some damning stuff there as well. JP,
that's the story, isn't it? It's what gets found out in this discovery phase, and if they get through to the dodgy doctor, as Connor calls him as well, like of all of the various kind of communications, the security camera footage, how many times Vince McMahon has been in contact with him as well. They find out all that stuff. That's where the story is, and that's where the big potential problem for WWE, hopefully, if there's any sense of justice in this world, of which I lose.
Well, they're tied to Vince, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like whether, I mean, that's an inevitable. I know we've used it as a stick to beat them because it's just a reminder to people that these two entities aren't separate. But it's going to happen in a case like this where they're both defendants. They're going to be stuck to also, though, whatever else comes out about Vince McMahon and whatever else comes out if they get their hands on these emails and text and whatever else Vince has said to other people in WWE who may not have been so blissfully unaware of everything that he was up to. But I don't know. In the week that Diddy got away with it, and in the week that the Weinstein files aren't going to, after all those promises, aren't going to get released. Epstein, getting the Steens mixed up here. Yeah, Epstein.
Well, apparently he's innocent.
Doesn't think? No, there's no list, JP. He's got no. There was no associates. There was no nothing. There was no conspiracy. And it turns out, despite everything the Trump lot said on the way in, there's no conspiracy there, and it's all above board. And he just happened to kill himself in prison, despite all the suspicions many rightfully might have had around that.
I know there's always a couple of people when this show goes up on YouTube, Trump supporters, who get really pissed off.
Maybe not them, yeah.
Don't mention it at all. It's like, honestly, so
you're saying he's in the list, isn't he? That's what it is. He's on the list.
He clearly is. He had more. Like they bang on about Bill Clinton. It's like fucking compared to Trump, who was traveling on his private planes and stuff as well. And it's just, and there's a damning interview that Trump did where he spoke about this. Sorry, I'm not going to go. It's been stuff I've been listening to a bit of this morning, where it was asked, are you going to release the JFK files? Yes. Stuff about the moon landings? Yes. What about the Epstein files? Yeah. Well, maybe not, because there's stuff in there that could really hurt people. What do you mean you? Like, because that's really, you're just saying the quiet part out loud with this. And also, why did he kill himself? There's no list. There's no conspiracy for human, for people trafficking. So in that case, why did he kill himself? Because clearly it should be the idea, and don't take this out of context, it made it look like that Jeffrey Epstein was innocent. And a whole group of charlatans who made their fucking careers on doing Epstein this, Epstein, all of that really conspiratorial stuff regarding like Democrats and everything else. Fucking quiet crickets from them as well. So yeah, they've turned Alex Jones against them. That says a lot.
You say no one should clip this, but these types of conversations, JP, are why Steph mentioned it to me. She was like, do you realise, because we've been looking at flights like to and from Bangkok, and most of them stop in the Middle East. She was like, you're only a short flight away from going to the Royal Rumble in January. A cheap short flight at that. And I was like, you know what, I value my life. Because one, I wouldn't go, because I stand on business, unlike Philip Brooks. But two, imagine I did go, JP. Imagine, like, I couldn't scrub it all. The amount of times I've called the Saudi Crown Prince a murderer, or said other bad things about that murderous regime that is a murderous regime. So you won't get me on those planes, mate. And if I'm ever flying home and my plane gets diverted to Saudi Arabia, pray for Pucci. Let's hope I make it back to my home planet.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, don't do that journey, mate. That's fucking terrifying. And it's dangerously close to Iran as well. So
they don't like journalists, they don't like drug dealers. That's what we've learned from Saudi Arabia over the last few weeks. I'm not that I'm a drug dealer. It's just I've got a bag that looks suspiciously like definitely not a drug dealer, just to throw that out there. But anyway, I won't be doing a Philipology. But there we go.
As well. Another quick news note from WWE. John Cena has confirmed his WWE retirement match will happen in the middle of December. This is during the promotional tour for Heads of State, which I watched, by the way. And it is better than it has any right to be. It's a load of old bollocks, but he is very good in the kind of... He's like a clueless putz, and it's more Idris Elba who's the action bloke in it, which is mad. Absolutely mad.
Comedic actor, John. That's what he is.
We watched it on Friday, and it was like, that was perfectly fine. I enjoyed it. I laughed a few times, and there's a lot of films that I watch that are supposed comedies that I never laughed. I thought it was generally fine for that as well. So I thought, yeah, you're doing the right thing, John, getting out of this whole wrestling game in there as well. So middle of December, it is expected it's going to be at the TD Garden in Boston, and it is rumoured that it's going to be a Saturday's night's main event at the TD Garden as well, which, being on network TV, being John Cena's retirement match, you'd hope would get a bigger rating than usually they would have done for one of these. It's probably a decent decision rather than putting it on just like a PLE on Netflix. It
just begs the question, like, at what point he loses the belt, because it looks like SummerSlam to Cody, and then that's a long way to go. Like, there's a lot of the year left. We've got a whole autumn and winter to go through. Well, mainly autumn and a bit of winter to go through before we get there.
I think Rollins.
How's he fill his time? Maybe.
I think that's where he turns face. I think Rollins cashes in after Randy Orton costs Cody. I know this is not a chain of events that I'm particularly enjoying thinking of.
Don't think the WWE turnarounds happening anytime soon if that is the case. But we will see.
SummerSlam is really the point where they have to turn him face. Like, at that point, they need to get to that stage and then just have, like,
maybe the company should follow suit. Maybe they should turn face. Maybe that would help. But
be nice.
I don't think that will. But yeah, to go through. Just some other quick news. Talatonga has changed his name. No, not Bata Hikuleo. They've added an extra L. So he is now Talatonga with 2 L's, according to a SmackDown nameplate and according to the man on Instagram and Twitter himself. There we go. The jokes keep making themselves, JP.
Did you hear as well? Oh, I know. It's better than Hikuleo, I suppose. Like, it makes me laugh because he is taller, obviously. But it's also, at the same time, haven't they trademarked Ethan Fatu?
Yes, they have. I meant to include that as an file. He's doing it. Glad you picked that up. Ethan Page, it's looking up, mate. His move to the main roster happening soon. If they can make some of the rest of the debate Samoan so far, maybe Ethan Page isn't a stretch too far. The Canadian Samoan.
Why not have that in that case? I suspect it'll be his brother. Is his brother Zilla Fatu? Is it Journey Fatu? I forget. But Journey Fatu is a name that can get out.
Zilla's all over like Rikishi's Facebook at the minute. He's proper trying to give him like the Instagram and Facebook push. So maybe it's him. As well as push that. Did you see the controversy? I was almost going to include it as a song, but I'm not going to now because of the controversy surrounding it and the words that Jacob was using in the song that he probably shouldn't be using. But yeah, Rikishi put out like a rap song that's him and Jacob Fatu, which is quite funny because apparently it's like I think this is right. It's like 4 years old. So like there was obviously a point in Jacob's indie career where he was like, come on, Unk, get on this track for me, mate. You can do the you can do the chorus. It'll be great. And then he did it. And then Rikishi was like, you're not famous though, so I'm not going to tell anybody we did this song. 4 years later, he's on WWE TV and he's a big star. And it's like, oh, did you know? Like me and Jacob did this rap song. Oh yeah. So will somebody do some AIR for me, and we'll put it out on YouTube. And that's literally what they've done this week. It's a hell of a song. Jacob's a better rapper than Rikishi is at the very least.
Yeah, I just think this is a game you should stay away with, and stay away from that word in particular. Like, for fuck's sakes. Like,
have you seen this artwork? It's fucking... Yeah, I'm trying to bring it up here. It's like... like, Rikishi can't help himself but, like, make himself, like, get rid of my ad blocker there. Make himself the center of all these stories. The US titles on it as well. WWE logo in the background. He knows where his bread is buttered, does our Rikishi Fatu.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, there's no chance of him turning up in AEW, and if he did, he'd just be taking the piss like the rest of those lads in there as well. Fucking hell, it's a bit out of date now, isn't it? Like, you just have to get rid of that fucking title in there.
That's true, actually. Yeah. It was the artist. Send it back to ChatGPT or ChatGPT. Yeah. Maybe he can do you the job, Rikishi. But
teaming up with the lad so funny, who's feuding with his son. It's strange.
Yeah. He proper acts like he's like the head of like this mob family, doesn't he, Rikishi, at this point? Like he's Tony Soprano or something like that. Like he's the real elder. Like he makes sure he's the Billy Gunn of this family. You make sure he's the real star. Who, by the way, was tower. I didn't mention that on Collision, but towering over poor Anthony Bowens once again in a backstage segment, as they seem to be breaking them up finally. But it's probably going to lead to a match I don't think I want to see.
No. And it's a damning indictment that I think Max Caster is much more over than Billy Gunn as well. I didn't even get round to watching him in that Maple Leaf Pro thing.
Max Caster's getting this new gimmick over. It's just like the starting point, I think Brian Alvarez pointed out, was like they were already this over and they've dropped them down to here to get them back to here. And it's like, I feel like just there was probably a better way than the way they've gone with that team. But it's not like I missed them either.
Made no fucking sense in the slightest. Finally, an update on NXT Europe. Deep breath, and we fear the worst as soon as those words are spoken out of there. We have an update from Fightful Select, which apparently, according to the current status, a lot of people on the European independent scene have been told that NXT Europe is still coming, with no indication over where and when this would be the case. Obviously, they've had the tryouts, they've had some signings in there as well, but apparently none of that's got to do with NXT Europe there as well. There is that apprehension from a lot of the promoters about who they're going to be signing up, so I think you're going to see that case where certain people are going to be used and certain people aren't going to be used. Why? Because what's the fucking point? They're going to be gone in a couple of months' time and not be able to put anyone over. There is fear on the French independent circuit, and we've spoken about France a couple of times. It's having as much of a boom period as we've ever seen French wrestling happen, and they're fearing that it's going to have damage to it. And it's like, yeah, because it had damage when it was on over here and in Germany. So why would France be exempt from that? And Ireland, like the net negative for all of it was absolutely enormous.
The quote from me, and I haven't broken the paywall of Fightful Select there, is just the screenshot of the website, but it does say that the belief from there's apprehension about WWE signing up talent, though the belief from others is it won't be damaging, and new stars will continue to develop, much like they did after the launch of NXT UK. Give me a list of stars that developed after the launch of NXT UK. I'd be quite interested in seeing that list.
Hang your head in. Came from. Hang your head in shame, whoever said that quote there. Because, I can imagine where it's coming from. Yeah,
it takes us to our finally story, which I don't know if it was in reaction to this, but I think it was just in general, and it's been picked up by a lot of the news sites. Your friend of mine, young, not so young anymore, Tyler Bate, has posted a photo on Instagram with the caption, "Not injured, waiting." ... which has led all of the clickbaity Twitter type people to comment on it and talk about what a travesty it is, and that he should be back on TV. And then there's people arguing about it. Well, no, he's injured, and it's like, well, no, he's definitely not, because he was on TV a couple of times this year when they were in the UK. They put him back on TV. and that's all since his injury. So he's absolutely fine. It just turns out, JP, that, in the year of our Lord 2025, 8 years after the WWE UK title tournament, it turned out the WWE didn't know what to do with a young, talented wrestler who was 4 foot tall from the Midlands and can't talk. Strange, can't believe it, that he wasn't a fit, and it didn't work out. Strange. I mean, again, obviously, there's a lot of room within that take for it to have gone better, but you would have you would have thought Uncle Trips would have put his nice arm lovingly over the shoulders of Tyler and Pete Dunne, who's also a 4 foot man who can't cut a promo from the Midlands. So there's a theme here. I'm not sure what it is. Who has not gotten over in WWE. Again, I'm not even saying that like it's his fault. I'm just saying it like it's possibly was never the right fit for those lads, and has proven not to be in I'd say record time, but in over the last 8 years. They'd argue though, wouldn't they, JP? They've made a living. They were on NXT takeovers. They have got to live their dream as WWE superstars. I don't know. Was this the dream?
I mean, I don't think so. Like,
should they get better dreams? I don't know.
Yes,
somebody said that once.
That was the phrase I was going to use. Get better dreams for it. And when it comes to short-ass tag teams, they've got plenty of those. With Motor City Machine Guns or DIY in particular, they've got loads of those.
They've not gotten over either, though. To be fair,
no, they haven't got any of that in the slightest. Isn't Pete Dunne? He's a producer though. There's
for the Speed Show. Yeah,
for the Speed Show, but that feels like it's a trial for him to then effectively become a producer afterwards. So there's that.
Isn't he like 30? He's like 31 something. Like, I think he's got a lot of career left. Yeah. Andy says here in the chat his best work was Butch. I'm not sure I totally disagree, to be honest. I think he got that character over. It was bad Vince McMahon pilled idea it was. It was the most personality show on WTV, which again shows you. Not a criticism of the man necessarily, as much as the place he's at. Longer run than Austin. That's insane.
Fucking hell.
Austin 316 is June 1986. The Invasion is July 2001, and then 2002 WrestleMania, and then there isn't much after that. Jesus. Yep, that checks out. Yep.
Jesus Christ. What a damning indictment.
2003 we're done.
Is mental for that. Other much more upbeat. I like to think, and finally, story from WWE. New Jack's entrance theme is going to be playing throughout no DQ singles matches in WWE 2K25 on there. He's going to be featured in a video game, the long since deceased Jerome Young. He's going to be in the Fearless pack along with Penta, Bull Nakano, Jordan Grace, and KSI. What a fucking collection of people that is. Like, I don't even know how you get them lot together there as well. He's going to, but like the music he's going to be playing there as well. This he's going to have playing throughout it. I'm assuming it is not Natural Born Killers, as in like.
That's my main takeaway. Yeah. What is the music? That's what I want to know.
The non-copyright version of it done by those. What's the name of the people who do their theme tunes? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Hot Tag Media. We could do with them.
Oh, it's not Hot Tag Media. It's isn't it something Rebel something or something along those lines? I'm sure it includes the word Rebel. I was going to say it was those CFO gobshites beforehand as well. But at least they're doing it for that. But it's not his proper song. And part of it was that the song was fucking awesome. And that was.
Oh, do you mean CFOs?
CFOs. Yeah, I think they're gone. I think it's someone else out of this.
Def Rebel it is now, yeah.
Def Rebel. That's it. So yeah. Oh my God. But at least he's having that, and hopefully he'll get a few quid sent back to the family as well.
I've got to show you this. This is the advert for this season pass. Like, what a collection of lads that is. Like, it's just unbelievable.
What
amazing.
The fuck?
Incredible. Yeah,
there's a group of people, none of whom have got anything in common with each other at all.
Throw New Jack in the mix as well. It's incredible. Brilliant.
New Jack, Great Khali, KSI. What the hell is going on? Madness.
This is amazing. Look at this. It is literally the group of lads and Lashing you would never see on a night out together. Like you say, KSI. There with New Jack, knocking around with Jordan Grace and Bull Nakano. What a gang!
I mean, for a start, they've made arguably New Jack is nearly as tall as the fucking Prime Bottle. And I'm assuming they've probably got KSI in the Prime bottle while he's doing it. So that is mental. Fucking mental.
I wonder if they're not using Natural Born Thrills. Are they going to get that like instrumental thing that used to be on the ECW DVDs when New Jack would have a match? I was a big fan of that. Great instrumental rap track that I feel like a Mac Caster or somebody should rap over. Maybe they'll do that, or they'll create their own. It'd be fucking annoying though, wouldn't it? After a couple of minutes, especially if it's not Dr. Dre and Ice Cube. I don't think you want to hear a song that much in repeat. You know,
Don't want to hear it at all. Like, really, it's either Natural Born Killers or it's nothing. I won't be buying the game anymore.
Spoken like a true fan, JP, and you were an NWA guy.
Oh, always, mate. And I love Straight Outta Compton, the film. I would highly recommend.
You're an MC Ren man or an Easy E man? Where would you go if you?
I'm an Easy E man. You know me. I love an AIDS joke. So Easy E is always going to be the boy on that front there as well.
Fucking hell.
Sorry.
There you go. Be like the Rampage ad breaks. Yeah, that's pretty much what it's going to be like. But again, we shouldn't make fun of people having to use non-copyrighted music, because that is literally the whole that we have dug for ourselves this week. But there we go. There's your finale from WWE. But yeah, that takes us nicely into some non-WWE and AEW matters. And yeah, we mentioned it a couple of times. Connor's got a cracking pick'ems going over on the Discord that I think he's putting some final touches in. He said before to the obviously now that we know the lineups a little bit more for the G1. And obviously, Goto no longer in the lineup, which caused a bit of reshuffling, but feels like something. Again, I think the plan was always to put the belt back on Zack, but it did feel like coincidental timing, or maybe lucky timing, that you can do that and you can take him out of it. But yeah, anything stand out to you as far as like these G1 cards, JP? Obviously, I suppose the lead story is going to be the opening and the closing weekend at any given point when it comes to these cards. But you know, obviously, if we go through the opening there, as the New Japan 1972 website plays Silly Beggars with me. We've got obviously Tanahashi and Taichi is going to be the main event on night one, which is very much the story of this G1. A lot of Tanahashi main events on this retirement tour, with the B block headline by Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ren Narita on that opening night. July the 20th has an early banger look of a match. Gabe Kidd versus Zack Sabre Jr. in the main event of that second match on that second night of that opening weekend there, with of course Sonada shitting things up against Taichi on that night as well. Yeah, any of the other the main events particularly stand out for you here across these shows? It's always interesting to see they haven't outright said what the main events are going to be for the last night, so we can maybe do some figuring out from there, the matchups at least that they've set for the last night, JP, that might give us some inkling of the directions they might be going here.
Yeah, it's interesting with those night two, mate. Those final night, kind of like the A block finals. You got Tanahashi versus Evil and Yota Tsuji versus Callum Newman. Which would suggest that we'll probably have the Yota Tsuji loses the first few matches, and that's the match he wins in order to go through, because that one seems like an absolute no-brainer, particularly as he got to the final last year. Like, he would be the kind of guy that you'd be absolutely... Oh, no, he didn't get to the final. He did get to the final last year, did he? Or was it Shota Umino? I forget. No, it was. He did get to the final. He lost to Zack, didn't he? I forget all about
it. Don't need me, JP. Great show, this. JP versus JP.
Exactly. Just arguing with myself, which is the story of my life.
I agree with the second JP. He was right. First JP was wrong. He didn't know what he was talking about. Well done, second JP.
I think there's a thing you can really tell from this is Tanahashi headlining. I get, and John made this comment in the Discord, and I think it's a fair shout to credit him for this. There's going to be loads of those small towns, of which is going to be the last time that Tanahashi's going to be.
It's the big selling point, isn't it? They're going to do an extra couple hundred tickets, aren't they? Like, or maybe less than that, but more tickets, maybe more than that in some of these places.
Exactly. It's having him win them is a different kettle of fish. If is he physically up to it? You'd have to say no. I
guess you have to tell some type of story, though, don't you? If you're putting him in that spot, whether it's losing streak or winning some, they've got to do something, haven't they, to make that worthwhile?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's it. Like, in some ways, if he can possibly do it, then you just go all in with him doing it. But then I think the winner of G1 is not going to be the Tokyo Dome main event. I think they're going to be they're going to do the thing they did last year and have them challenge at King of Pro Wrestling. I think that's the direction they're going to go in. I mean, when you've got like one of the two main having Takeshita versus Ren Narita, and then you've got Shota Umino versus Great-O-Khan, that doesn't suggest it's going to be selling a fuckload of tickets. That just says about where that is. I think Evil is going to be getting a massive push. There's a part of me that is very fearful that he might end up winning this. I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility there as well.
Fucking hell.
I know. And what it should be, I know, it's depressing. I don't want to. It wouldn't be something that I'd want to predict, but I wouldn't be entirely surprised, given how strong they tend to keep Evil. And they always tend to keep him strong as well. What it should be, if we're going to where they should be at the end of these and what the final kind of like the final four should be, it should just be four young lads. It should be Tsuji, Gabe Kidd, Yuya Uemura, and I suppose Takeshita. That would be the ones that I would want.
Not young, but more interesting, fresh. Exciting. All of them. All the good things that he's doing right now in New Japan.
People who haven't won it. Like, because that's the direction they have to go in. They have to shit. It's either shit or get off the pot time with this. And I'm sure I've said this about the last 3 G1s, but this one is
maybe
much
5.
more pronounced. It's desperate. I always think back to what Sarah Farrell, she spotted, like, just going, he's just booking the same thing again and again. And that was like in 2018, 2019, she was saying that. Now look where we are, 2025, and it's very much the case for this. It's hard. I find it hard to be enthused by these. Will there be some good matches? Yes, there will do. Some of them will be really putting a shift in. And that's why you'd want to put the emphasis on the young guys of going, right, here is your opportunity, particularly like a Yuya Uemura or particularly Yota Tsuji, of just going, because it's up for grabs, isn't it? Whoever is going to be the next guy in New Japan, and they thought it was going to be Shota Umino, which was an incredible piece of thinking on their part. And it died on its arse. You should be nowhere near this final four unless you do like a complete character change and turn him into a massive heel, which I think could work. But the time to do that was really about a year ago. But the time to do it was when he lost to Zack. That's
when it was interesting.
That's when you could have done it, and they haven't done that ever since. But I find it hard to be enthused by this. I'm just grateful we're not covering each and every show of this.
Like, looking at those lineups and looking at the main events and looking at who's positioned where, it does feel poised to be a big tournament for Gabe Kidd and a big corner for Yota Tsuji. And again, we keep pushing it like that's kind of what you want to see, isn't it, out of New Japan in 2025, depending on what the future is of Gabe Kidd there. But as you've often said, you've got him now, so fucking go with it. I want to be positive, but I've been burned so many times. I was burnt last year, I've been burnt the year before. And like, Connor says, Evil's winning the block. He can, looking at the breakdown now, he's the man with the spreadsheet. He's got I haven't done the points tallies yet. I haven't figured it out. But let's hope like that's a sign of something, where they're positioned and the matches they've got in the openings and towards the close mean they're going to be doing something significant. And that's the way it should go. Absolutely. Or Takeshita, who's got, a nice steady run all the way through, a couple of main events here and there, mostly just, he's going to be the MVP, like 100%. I can tell you that now. Yeah. Eyes closed. If you didn't know any of the matches, didn't know anyone else who was in it, you probably guessed Takeshita's going to be the MVP. I'm not 100% sure that means he gets to the final lot or he gets to the final itself, but I think it means he's going to be, strong enough in the tournament all the way through. Can JP review Evil versus Sonada?
No.
Just play some audio. I was doing it in 2017 or 2018, mate. It's out there. You've got it. 2019, maybe it'd be more accurate.
It was embarrassing watching him run interference in that New Japan Soul while wearing a piece. Just looked like giant clown boots. It was like, fuck me, how that bloke ever got the IWGP title is absolutely beyond me on that. I think you're completely right about Takeshita. I mean, what you want to be doing is probably Takeshita Tsuji at the Dome, if you can do that, and then have underneath it Tanner's last match, Okada, maybe Nakamura, if you could get him back into the mix as being the one that's going to be the driver of business. But then your main event is between two younger, unproven talents who are going to be the ones to kind of like steal the show in ring. That should be what they're aiming to do. I just don't have the faith in them in order to do it because they're just fucking all over the place. They just, as soon as you think, they're maybe getting it together, you go, nope, it's not going to be the case. And probably, again, the Aaron Wolf news of like using him, whether or not, do you put him in there with Tanahashi? And I'd just be like, no. Only because the idea I can get behind, I can understand. I just don't think Tanahashi is in that physical state to be able to deliver the type of match that Aaron Wolf needs. Whereas with Okada or Nakamura, he can go through some of the greatest hits and get through on charisma. That would be how I would view it for that. But having him headline a load of these shows, I'm all right with that. It's Tanahashi. It's his final year.
He's all over the posters, and he should be. He absolutely should be. It's get your juice out of it while you can. And obviously, this is our last chance, so let's do it. Well, not the only tournament going on, JP. Tournament season is about.
It is. Tournament season is abound. We've got the 5-star Grand Prix blocks. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them. It's
Choco Pro not got a tournament going on. Oh, we talk about that.
Well, you need to get yourself across there, don't you, to be doing this in there as well. It's the 5-star Grand Prix. It's 32 in this as well. So you've got the Red Stars A block and what is it? The blue Red Stars A, Red Stars B, Blue Stars A, Blue Stars B. So in each of those, you've got like 8 in each of those in there. The most notable name outside of the current roster that they have is B. Priestley. Is B. Priestley sort of coming back into the mix? And it's more like it's a second ever one. The last time she was there was 2019. She is, I mean, I don't know. People's thoughts vary. I didn't mind her when I saw her in Stardom. It's probably as good a place as she can end up being. She did make her first post-WWE appearance in May when she was on New Japan's Resurgence there as well. She was part of an indie show of Spark in Texas last month. Wouldn't be the craziest thing if you saw her turn up at bloody All In the Casino Gauntlet for reasons. There's a few people I'd be expecting like that, whether it be Shotzi or whoever to be making appearances. I think they're the only people they'd be able to get in who won't be on the Evolution card as well. But yeah, it goes on till August 23rd. So I remember one of these 5-star Grand Prix going until at the end of September. It was fucking insane. It was just like the take a month off. It's just like, why not just delay the tournament for a month and just compress it into that time period? But
do it in October. I could go then. I'm gutted. I was going to say that about the G1. I was planning on organising my Japan trip around the G1. Now I think I'm organising it around Oasis in the Tokyo Dome, which plans are moving along and possibly going to that. More to see Oasis, but more so to say I went to Tokyo Dome because I'm not going to be able to go in January. So when am I going to get to see wrestling in the Tokyo Dome? Probably no time soon, but it'd be cool to go either way. But yeah, maybe I can take up to whatever the follow up is to this when I'm out there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one person, you do want to see him. He'll be out there. I know he'll be retiring pretty soon. He's not just Tanahashi. He's very much like the hipster Tanahashi, and that's Tiger Mask 4. He is going to be retiring at Kurikan Hall on the 6th of in July next year. I know you said the 6th. It was on the 6th of July that he announced.
Is your browser struggling with the translation too?
So absolutely. Massively struggling. Just even getting past the fucking cookie stage.
The pop-up,
like an absolute nightmare. Oh, my God. It was just, I was like, how the hell do I close this down? I need to read about this. How old is he 54 years old at this stage? I mean, he's always looked fucked to me, this lad in here as well. He debuted July 1995. It's a good run. 30 years in there as well. He's... he won the Best of the Super Juniors in 2004, 2005, just a little over 20 years ago there as well. So yeah, he's getting to his 30th anniversary debut match, and that's when he's going to be retiring there as well, which is probably a good shout. You barely see him on cards at all these days. There was a point in time where he was like a staple of that first match you'd see on a New Japan Big Show in that boom period, and he was just like, Tiger Mask 4. He's no Satoru Sayama, is he? Or Misawa at this point. He's not even like when Kota Ibushi dressed up as Tiger Mask when they did that bloody anime cartoon there as well. So, yeah, he's going to be retiring. And Rev Pro, to New Japan adjacent, they are moving to a new home. They are moving away from the 229 and they're moving to the Porchester Hall, which is just 2 miles away near Paddington, if I remember rightly, which for me is fucking really handy. Because
you can go straight to Paddington, can't you?
Oh, if I go to Didcot Parkway, I get to Paddington in like 35 minutes.
That's your local promotion, mate.
It is. It bloody is. It takes me that long. If I was going to go to fucking like anywhere else around, it'd take me a lot longer than that. But by all accounts, they were informed. The 229. This is their post that they put up on X. That the 229 said they're no longer hosting sporting events. They need to find a new home. It looks a lot bigger. It looks very nice inside. It's like a kind of like banqueting hall there as well. So hopefully it's very much like cost efficient there as well. The first show that they're going to be, so the final one they're doing at the 229 is going to be on August 3rd. I'll be away for that one. And then it's going to be September 6th is when they're starting that off, which is on a Saturday. So it's normally a Sunday show they do for that. And then it is going to be the first Sunday they do is the Live in London 100. Which is going to be on Sunday, October 5th as well. But it looks big. It looks like a big old hall. And I'm assuming it's, should be all right trying to get a beer there as well. And then looking on the comments, by all accounts, there's no age restrictions in there. So it's not one of these that they're requiring an over 18s. And if it's like the 229, which I quite liked, I was there with you at one of the shows there. It's
wonder what's happened there. It says, doesn't it? Yeah, the 229 are the ones who made the decision to no longer host sporting events. Like, what does that mean? Like, why as a venue? Maybe there's more to it that we're not seeing, but like, what's the difference like between doing that or showing gigs or having whatever else you're going on at the 229? Like, if someone's willing to pay for the venue and people are going to turn up and buy drinks as wrestling fans do, like, what is the issue? Like, and it was always full as well. I don't think you could have really. You could maybe got a few more people in there, but not that many more people in there than Rev Pro were doing at the 229. I hate that. It's wrestling, isn't it? It's the challenges of running a British wrestling company, or you're going to run up against this where venues just decide to say no all of a sudden, and then you're scrambling. Like, it sounds like they've done well to find a backup there. Got no familiarity, obviously, with the venue. Be interested to know what our listeners who go to the shows think about that one. It does seem, from what you're saying there, Paddington, it's easy enough for people to get to. At least that's the first challenge done, isn't it? But yeah, it just seems a shame that it has to happen at all.
Is the Wi-Fi good? I think that's going to be the other big question as well, because they're streaming those shows live on Rev Pro on demand. So that's one of the big things is that Wi-Fi going to be good in there as well. It looks like it's got the size. And I like the 229. It was right by Tube Station. It was easy to get to from some of the other
won't get to go again.
Major stations. I liked it. You had pubs nearby. It was like it felt nicely informal. You could be stood at the bar and you wouldn't miss anything from the shows. It had like the right size of like a couple of hundred people. But then I loved the cockpit before then as well. So it's a massive problem trying to find these types of venues in London. The hope would be, because it's a Sunday and a Sunday afternoon, what are they doing with this venue? Are they able to get it cheaper than what they were able to get like the 229 or around that same sort of cost? So does it work from a cost efficient basis? Because that's always the thing you've got to have in mind with Rev Pro. Is it's just got to be able to kind of pay its way, but it's not too far at least. And
it seems like a good venue. It does.
Station. Yeah.
Seems like they pulled the positive out of the negative. Just reading the comments, they're saying to people it's going to be 4 doors, 4:30 bell time, just to give them that extra time to get production in, which is, I think most people are going to understand that and bear with them if they're trying to get set up in a new place. But yeah, just looking at the response to it seems overall positive. I think people are happy because it does look like such a nice venue, and it is, very centrally located as well, which isn't a given. All ages as well. And people asking about that too. That's good.
If it's near Paddington, obviously incredible for rail links, but loads of tube links. You got your Elizabeth line that's nearby. You got your Bakerloo
Love the Lizzie
Circle line there as
my
well.
Favourite.
Easy. Lizzie line's great.
Top 5 tube lines. Can we do that on the 5 to 1? We need an off topic. I was going to do top 5 carbs, but maybe we can do that. I don't know.
Top 5 tube line. I'd have some strong thoughts on these. I was born a Piccadilly line man, and I'll die a Piccadilly line man.
We'll do it as a bonus one, because I think it might just be me and you going back and forth. Oh, look, Gareth might have takes. He might.
It's a shit line. It's not great. You're not getting that kind of nice, like you can walk through the entire tube carriages like you can do on the Elizabeth line, and there's always generally a seat. It's never that heaving. Piccadilly line makes you fucking work for a space, particularly when I go, because I have to get that line to go to Arsenal.
Oh, yeah, of course. Not a fan of the Northern Line, to be honest. Never been a fan. When I was getting back and forth to Steph's early days.
Ball stuff.
But yeah, exactly. It splits
ball
off, and I don't really understand which one's which. It never really made sense to me. I never got my head around it. Plus, it seemed a bit miserable. But is Elizabeth line nice and fresh and new? Is it even a tube line, though? I think a lot of people would say that would be disqualified. That's more of a train line than a tube line.
It goes out to fucking Reading. It goes out really quite close to where I am.
That's why I like it, because I can stay fucking miles away and stay for cheap and travel it. Yeah. Exactly. Which is what I'll be doing when I'm back for All In next year, which I should be back for. I should be around.
But then, if you're wanting to get, so I'm looking forward to visiting this, and it is one of the things I do want to do is be able to go and see Rev Pro a lot more. I've not been able to because the kids being so little and whatnot. But
this seems like it's a open goal. Yeah,
it seems to be spot on. Like I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, could I bring in a buggy? Absolutely. Is there a chance that Charlie, if he wants to go batshit,
says all ages,
the place at the back of the hall, he could do? Could the lads, if they get if they're just not impressed for whatever reason, can they sit there on their switches quietly? Yeah, probably. Like, it looks like he's got that space thing sorted out there. So good luck to them.
There we go. Maybe I'll cover it more on the live, but we've had some, not breaking news, but just some updates on All In from Fightful, and obviously apparently this. I say obviously I don't get the invites anymore, or even like the write ups anymore, so I didn't know the Tony Khan conference call was tonight. But yeah, nothing major in there. All In's being shown in pints and pay-per-view locations nationwide in the United States. I don't know what that means. Pints and pay-per-views, I guess it's the provider for the pubs and stuff, the bars. No ROH post-show presser. It's going to be done before Saturday night's main event airs, so good news for Matty and the lads staying out. Saying that, how's that going to happen? If Saturday's main event not on at like 1 a.m. our time? Or maybe it's later.
I thought it was a little bit later.
Oh, it must be. Oh, yeah, it's 10 p.m., isn't it, Eastern? Yeah, so they got till 3 in the morning. Okay, well, there you go. There's your window. It's not too... AEW can be done by 3 a.m. I think we'll win. We'll take that. There was speculation about MJF's comments about the AEW roster being that, the people who were coming in and didn't take it seriously. It wasn't about CM Punk. It was about other people, probably Ali Black and Miro and the lads who saw it as a Doss's holiday. And that seems to be about it, really. Jamie Hayter's still injured. Pure title, women's pure title should have kicked off by now, but there's been injuries, and that's about it. There you go. But if there's more, we'll cover it on the live and obviously the weekend show on Thursday as well.
And Raw did 2.5 million, lowest.
Oh, fucking hell! Should have led with that. Jesus.
It's all good news, isn't it? On this spot, we're not normally as upbeat, but I see that stuff and it makes me fucking smile. Good work. Well done for not watching, people. I admire you for that. I was going to talk ever so briefly because I know we're running a bit late, and it's very.
Yeah, I don't need to say any more about Vietnam Pro Wrestling. It was great. Watch the YouTube. Support good people doing good stuff, and that's what they were. That's Ho Chi Minh City.
If you are looking to watch a show on YouTube, one show that I think, certainly from a production value perspective, I'm not going to go in depth on all of the matches for this. I watched MCW Ballroom Brawl because it wasn't in the Thornbury Theatre, and the commentators nearly got it mixed up. It was at the Melbourne Pavilion. It had 1,300 there. Oh. Big screens around the place as well, doing replays.
Is this the show I previewed on Weekend Show on Friday in tribute to, and then found out it had already happened? Sorry.
No, it hadn't happened. That was the thing.
Good.
It was on... No, we spoke about it on the Weekend Show. That was the week before. I think it was PWA that you'd done it.
Sorry.
With Matty.
Get my Aussie Indies. I apologise.
With this one, it was on Saturday morning. It was on like 10 a.m. So like I switched over to it. It's mainly from a production standpoint. They lose, if you're talking about, is the work spectacular? No, not really. This was just about getting their name out there. But they had, from a production level perspective, they had like crane cams there. The venue looked great on the stream. I thought it was really, really interesting, like in terms of like the setup for it as well. They've got like an ex-PCW guy. I know Andy must know who this is. Robbie Thorpe. He was the guy who ended up winning because it's a Rumble match, the Ballroom Brawl. He ended up winning it from number one. They're no big imports. Like, unless, Slex was arguably the biggest star there as well. Local characters, local feuds, did their biggest crowd. I think they've done of, like, say, 1,300. If you're talking the production values I've written on here, probably on parity with MLW and slightly below TNA, but not by a hell of a lot. The only technical issue I found with it was the commentator's volume was a little bit low. that was that would be my one complaint from it, and it wasn't even really a complaint because they were perfectly fine. But it's just interesting from a production standpoint. There is some, it was halfway decent, and I kind of enjoyed it. There's a lot of lads, because they're Aussies, a lot of them look the part, but they're very raw in ring. And so people like Mitch Waterman, who I remember seeing coming over to Rev Pro and doing a few shows there, and then he's back over there now. Slex has done Japan. I think he was in Maple Leaf Pro, which, by the way, I'm not reviewing. I watched some of it. It's just Canadian TNA. It is. And there's no Mauro, Joe Dombrowski, who's very much like the American Dave Bradshaw of just you need a commentator, you need him quick. Get old Joe on the blower. He'll come across there. So, yeah.
I saw M on the docket, and I thought that's what you were going to be once or what, and then I realised it was Aussie Graps. Yeah.
Any
production looks great. Give him that.
Yeah.
But go on, I'll let you. Fun. We've gone a little bit long, so I'll let you decide which of our finally stories we're going to do before we get out of here and before my neighbour upstairs kicks off too much.
Can we do Ted DiBiase Jr.?
Let's do it.
Yes.
The other one was the Hardys one last hurrah and WWE. So anyway,
yeah,
go on.
I won't have to watch it, and they were going to get it anyway. So cool. Ted DiBiase Jr. has filed a motion in an attempt to delay the start of his criminal trial. If you wondered, he was mentioned on commentary when they were doing the King of the Ring final between Cody and Randy Orton. That's as far as they went. And they mentioned why he wasn't there. He has been investigated since 2020. Prosecutors waited over 2 years after his indictment, and then they provided about 48 hours of video footage of the sham contracts that he is said to enter into there as well. But his attorneys have said they need to go through these videos in the interest of justice there as well. He is he was arrested for one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and to commit theft concerning programs receiving federal funds, 6 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of theft concerning money receiving federal funds, and 4 counts of money laundering. That's impressive, mate. Absolutely impressive there. So it was, defrauded the state of Mississippi, I think, of a couple of $1 million as well. Absolute piss taker.
Oh, my
Ted
God.
DiBiase Jr. Yeah. But and I think he's trying to say he's a man of God in here. What did he do? He spent the money on a boat, vehicles, and a down payment on a house. He could face 45 years in prison and $1 million fine. Surely the old fella could pay the $1 million fine. That's not an issue in the slightest. He should literally laugh it off, wouldn't he? As his dad would do. And he has pleaded not guilty. I think he's banked to fucking rights, if you ask me. But then I'm not a lawyer in the States. So, yeah.
Oh, what a way for the story to end. How sad. How sad for Ted DiBiase Jr. But, his dad's got other things to spend his money on, if you believe a certain dark grapple rumour. But anyway, there we go. That's that. How sad. The brother's in jail too, isn't he? Brett DiBiase as well. Just what again, I'm not saying it's all Christians, JP. I would never say such a thing, but isn't it? Considering how devout and how
it is a lot.
How much they use it to be the he's a born again Christian. Didn't Ted DiBiase refuse to be in the NWO because he didn't want to be a heel in WCW because it was not good for his religious beliefs? And I'm sure he's talked down wrestling being too close to the knuckle. Who knows what he'd think about wrestling happening in the rain, but being mad at attitude era stuff, because it didn't fit his morals. But there they are on the Rob, JP, and that's okay. God says that's fine.
Yeah, God says it's all right. God's all right with wire fraud, but a bit of swearing and sort of doing a crotch chop on the other hand. Get out! No, can't be doing any of that stuff. What a family.
There we go. Amazing stuff. Well, there you go. That's our finally story. Like I say, the other one was Matt Hardy begging for a job with WWE. But outside of that, I think we've covered everything. Obviously, it's going to be a busy week. Going to be on pretty much every night through the week with a live with Andy Ogden and me, and also a weekend show coming a day earlier than usual on Thursday, or what has become usual to defend ourselves. But big weekend too, so it all makes sense and fits in with personal schedules and such like. But yeah. That's to look forward to, and obviously we'll have the All In review pretty sure on Sunday. We'll see what's happening with Gareth and that night out, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do with Matty now. But there'll be 2 spotlights in some form. There'll be two big review shows coming up. So stay tuned to Weekend Show, and we'll give you the full update on when and where that has all taken place. But yeah, outside of that, anything else to plug, JP? We say, get yourself, give yourself a listen of the story of the European title show.
Absolutely,
was, fun to record at the weekend. Best of each 96, 5-1. I think greatest rivalries, but definitely rivalries. We're going to be talking about this month as well. All the stuff is coming.
Oh, loads of great stuff. There was loads of great stuff in June. If you haven't listened to it already, Ring of Honor versus CZW. The deep cut into that, absolutely phenomenal stuff on there as well. Dominion 2018, if you want to remember when New Japan was good. And we've got another belt in King of the Mountain coming up this month as well with Super J Cup 1994. So where do you get all that goodness, you're wondering? Well, patreon.com/grapple or youtube.com/@grapple.
Indeed. I'll have a graphic sorted. We only nailed the 5-1 just now. So now that's sorted, and we can have a graphic for July. And then before you know it, it'll be August, and I'll have to figure out what the shows are going to be for August. But we've got a couple of irons in the fire, a couple of big ones planned for then as well. Maybe we could even throw a grapple lads in. Andy Ogden, if you could just do me a favour, if you're still listening to this, on the night out at the weekend, or Liam, just pull your phone out, record it for half an hour, and force those fuckers to do a grapple lads without me. That'd be great. We could do with one of them in the can. So thank you, Connor. We'll just piece one together from your night out, and we'll make it grapple lads. And there you go. There's some August content already taken care of. Good to go.
Writes itself, doesn't it? Come on. Yeah. Well, they're out on the piss. They could do that. There he is. There's Andrew. More than up for it.
Thanks, Andy.
Good lad.
Guerrilla recording. There you go. That's what you'd have to do when Matty's in charge of the schedule. But we get our shows however we can get them. But yeah, that's all up. Like I say, we'll do another live tomorrow with Andy himself, and yeah, we'll have all of our coverage over the weekend. But yeah, go forth, folks. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, live patrons, for tuning in, especially our kings and queen of the mountain, Conor Laughlin, Eddie Sideburns, Chris Platt, Carl Gack, Sophia Hitchcock, Simon Mulvaney, and also our newest king of the mountain, Marty Ellis. So we'll have Marty's show coming up as well. We've got a Simon show coming after Connor's. So it's all coming. So look forward to all of that. And yeah, thank you to my neighbours for putting up with me this late on a night. Have a great night, all, and we'll catch you all on the next one.
Bye.
Good night, all.